Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is Monday and we are back for the Online Darts Live Lounge, and a very special one. Who'd have thought we'd have made 50 episodes, but we are still here. Myself, Phill Bars, Jack Gobby Garwood, and the boys. Gentlemen, good evening.
Mate, I did not think we were getting to 50. We were 100% getting cancelled after about 6, but somehow we've reined it in a bit and we're still here.
It's all good. It's all good. Boys, see how we're doing?
Yes, all good, mate. All good. Another fantastic week, darting-wise, and glad to be part of Show 50.
Show 50 is here.
What about sporting-wise generally? How's the week been?
Welcome to the Darts Live Lounge. We are on top.
All right. I think I might re-ask you that question when our special guest gets here.
I thought you might.
Everyone, again, welcome in the chat room. Nice and busy as always. Remember, drop us a like before we get started. We've just shared some links on social media as well, so make sure you give them a follow and a retweet. Boost the numbers for the 50th show. Like we say, we've got a guest coming up. We've got a bit of a competition. We've got plenty of darts to talk about, boys. It's been a busy 10 days or so.
Just a bit. Non-stop, mate. Non-stop. Well, I say that as if it's anything different to what we do, but yeah, non-stop.
Yeah. Genuinely, I can't wait for a proper night's sleep tonight. Absolutely buzzing from my own bed for a few days. Not going to lie. Spot the mistake in the chat room. I think Charlie's used the wrong account. Busted,
Yeah,
Charlie. Hope everyone is good. And like you say, thank you very much for joining us for these 50 shows. Next landmark is the ton. Can't wait to get there as always. But only one place to start, boys. The Grand Slam of Darts is all done, and I think we're soon going to have to rename this place to the Iceman tournament. Gezi does it again, boys. We'll come on to the hows and everything in a minute, but a great tournament.
It was. Look, the Grand Slam is one that's been a little bit up and down. There's plenty of opinions around the format, about the players included, etc. But it delivered some, again, massive memories, some really big moments. But the final day wasn't as exciting as it could have been. But I think the rest of the tournament delivered superbly.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. It was Oh, wait a minute. Let's turn this one off. He ain't coming on just yet. We'll get to him in a minute.
You got well early.
You tell it's been a while, can't you? A week off and I've forgotten what my buttons do. So we're not going to touch on the group stages primarily because you boys absolutely smashed it out of the park on the Fallout bar. So if anyone wants to go back and revisit that, we can do. But we're going to start with the first round of knockout games. And on paper, this looked an okay session, but the highlight was young Bradley Brooks pushing Gezi, and we had some fire from both of them on the stage, Boise.
Yeah, we did. It was one of them. The night generally, I think the four favourites. I think a lot of people were predicting quite easy wins, and I know we don't be 3 out of the 4, but the Price Brutz name was an outstanding name. Brutz delivered what he'd done in the group stages, put in that performance. Price wasn't at his best. initially, but then we saw them both firing towards the end, and it was a top game. In otherwise, what was probably quite a disappointing night in regards to no real challenges in the other games, but that game was certainly one of the highlights of the week for me.
Yeah, Sam, hold that thought. We will come on to the schedule of the Grand Slam shortly. We will be bringing it up. And then this session, this one delivered, boys. If the night before wasn't what we were hoping for, this one was all and more, Gob. All 4 games had something.
Yeah, they did. Look, the night before, without being disrespectful, the only game that we expected it to go really close was the first one, and even Ryan Joyce didn't really deliver. Bradley Brooks gave us that little bit of a moment. Rafferty and Roby, look, we expected them to get beat, but we expected the margins to be a lot better on that one. This night just delivered. We had distance, we had shot, we had Fallon doing what Fallon does. Marcus Smith v Joe Cullen, despite the gap in the scoreline, was a good game. It was played at a good pace as those two do, and they just get on with it. It was just a good night of darts, I think, especially that final game.
We'll come on to that in a second, but game 2 was poor in standard, but that's what kind of made it good. The fact that we had loads of missed doubles and everything.
It was good for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I completely. I'm with you there. But the last match of the night, I called it El Clasico, and people were like, "Oh, it's not anymore." I'm telling you, it still is. No matter what form these two are in, they bring the best out of each other, Gob.
They do, and look, the results seem to be going green rather than blue far more frequently now than they were a few years ago, but they still produced one heck of a standard. It was a fantastic game between the two, and it was... Look, Gary was one of a number of players that heading into this stage of the tournament, maybe even the group stage before that, we weren't expecting an awful lot from, because they just aren't carrying great form. James Wade found himself in this part of the tournament. Gary Anderson's another. Gerwin Price was less than convincing in the group stage. There's a couple of us that just didn't expect a lot from and found their way through. There's a couple that we expected quite a bit from and didn't make it out of the group stages. The likes of Mervyn King should have been pretty comfortable in his group, to be honest, and found himself dispatched at the first stage. So, yeah, look, we know how good he is. We heard from Michael Smith throughout the week that Gary isn't at the slump, he just doesn't practice. But we know he's got that top-level game in there, and it's performances like that that are going to get me talking about Gary Anderson all the way up until Christmas, and potentially in that Premier League lineup conversation that we're going to have at some point, despite the fact, deep down, I know that he won't produce that week in, week out, but I still know he's got that in him, and I still want to see it.
And there was a little bit of needle as well, which is always nice.
Let me handle that bit.
Cheers, Dom. Cheers, mate. Yeah. Was a bit of needle, and he's added to it, didn't he? He just added that little bit to it that you want to see at times. It was just great to see both players playing at a very good standard. And to Dob's point, he's one of the best players to grace the stage, Gary Anderson. And if we can see him getting back to his best, everyone wants to see. I don't know anyone who doesn't want to see Gary Anderson on that stage. We have split opinions across a lot of players, but when it comes to Dando, when he's at his best, there's no one really who does the opposite way with him. So hopefully we see him produce more of that. Interesting to see what happens, as Dob says, with the Premier League and obviously the pits in there and where he's in the world when that comes around. So hopefully we see him in there. Just for me, we want to see him in there performing like he did on that night.
Last one from this one. Mensur Suljovic, Gob. Is there mental scarring? Because at 2-0, he was comfortable. But as soon as Fallon won 3 legs in a row and went in up at that break, no one thought Mensur Suljovic could win.
No, not even Mensur thought Mensur was going to win at that point. He absolutely crumbled. He threw the second worst performance in a knockout stage of the Grand Slam in its history. That's not good.
Yeah.
In fact, that's less than good. And look, all right, if he'd done that 6 months ago, we would not have been surprised because he had that massive hiatus from the sport. But he's looked really good since he come back. He had that run at the World Cup that we keep saying He's looked pretty good on the Pro Tour. He seems to have been rebuilding his form. Got out of a tough group, because that was a tough group. Let's not forget he came out of a group with Jose de Souza, Luke Humphreys, and Matt Campbell. That is no walkover. And he came out of it top. And then he produces that 84.18 average. Nah, not for me, thanks. Yeah, he's
agreed.
Definitely.
Katy
That's not a game that he wants
been deleted
World Championship
from the Mentor Sulovic playlist. That is for sure.
Correct. If it was never on there, I'm not entirely sure it's a Katy Perry man, to be honest. He doesn't look the type. I'm not quite seeing Mensah rocking around the press room with his AirPods in, listening to I Kissed the Girl like we see Dirk van Dijvenbode and his all hard-out rave music.
Lots of questions in and around Fallon. Don't worry. We will come to them in due course, because it is going to split opinion. We'll come on to that. Niall is in. Hope we are well, buddy. Then the first of the quarterfinals. Again, we'll come on to this, but the quarterfinals split across two. Joke. But Rob Cross, James Wade, your boy Gob, looked very good in this game. Not so much later on, but in this one, he was very good.
No, he did look very good. He looked very, very good against Rob Cross in the group stage, and he looked very, very good against him once again in the quarterfinals. The fact he's got an injury and he's played this well throughout the week, despite being an absolutely no form, something just clicked for James, and we saw a little bit more of a character on stage from him. We saw a little bit more aggression, the wadey shuffle, as I like to call it, because he just gives it the whatever with both arms, the fist pump. I don't mind seeing that at all from him. The only issue is left-handed, so it's always the wrong bloody way. It's never on camera. But yeah, look, he looked very, very good. The scoring was far more consistent. He seemed to be in the 180s a lot more, which is where he found himself at the start of the year. His scoring to start the year was very, very good when he won the UK Open, and he was picking up tournament Pro Tours, and he was chucking in 10+ averages for fun. That's not something we see from James Wade very, very often, but he found that level at times this week, not all the time, but at times this week, and he punished Rob Cross. And the finishing looked a lot sharper as well. The struggle of James Wade's game in the last 6 weeks or so has been his tops and tens hitting has been terrible. That was back at the normal James Wade level this week, and it got him as far as it did.
Yeah. Well, answer the world number one bit was a little bit tricky. It was nowhere near as clear cut as he was world number one and whatever, but he was in with a shout before the Worlds if he'd have won.
In that case, so in this tournament, if Gerwyn Price had lost to Johnny Clayton and Peter Wright had won the tournament, he would have been number one by £10,000. If he'd beaten him in the final, there was a chance, but it would have meant an early exit for Price and another tournament win for Snakey at the Players' Champs. And now he's guaranteed to be world number one come the World Championship start. Yeah. So that's that one. And there was also another one in the chat room. James, you got Fallon last 16. We were doing the sums at the weekend in the press room, and everyone reckons round 3 will be enough to get her a tour card. Yeah. That's what the PDC lads were, obviously nothing set in stone, but working it all out, that they all reckon round 3 is enough. We'll come on to that in a minute. Fallon's got her own section. But the Welsh Derby, Gezi found his best form in this one, Boise, to pull away from Johnny towards the end.
Yeah, we did. It's similar in one aspect to the Bradley Brutts. Didn't really perform to the level I think we expected, but then found it at the end. Similar in this one to Clayton. I was doing the preview for this night and looking back at the head-to-heads, and Clayton picked up the last 2, but Price's won before. It was looking like that Clayton had the better of Price. And for me, I saw Clayton getting over the line this time when I was looking at that. But Price found a way, and he got better as the week went on. But it's them final stage of the Dames that, like I said, Brutts, and then this one. He found that at the end, and that's why he's well number one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Then this night was a bit good, boys. First up, Michael Smith finally beats MVG in a televised ranking event. And if I'm being honest, that scoreline flatters Michael Van Gerwen a little bit, boys. Because I thought Michael Smith was sensational.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a period where Smith switched off. He had a 5-leg buffer twice, allowed that to be caught once, opened it up again to 12-7, I think it was. And then he got a little bit edgy towards the back end once he was on 13-14 or so. Van Gerwen won 3 on the spin, but Michael Smith was absolutely superb in this game. He refused to retaliate or get himself fired up on the stage, which at times I definitely think helped in the performance. At times I think he needed that little bit of a release because he knew that he was building up to that release as well at the end of the game. And I think that made him a little bit tense, if that makes sense. There was a couple of legs where he just needed something to get him going, to stop Michael in his tracks. Didn't have it because he was thinking, I can't react to that, I can't do this, as well as trying to think about playing the game. So, look, it was a stunning performance from Michael Smith, his first ever victory over Van Gerwen in the televised ranked event. It's just a shame it didn't lead to more, really, from Michael Smith, because he's just banging on the door constantly.
Yeah. And, look, Peter Wright defeats Fallon Sherrick, but this was an acid test pass for me, because even in my preview, everyone knows that I'm a huge Fallon fan. I wasn't sure she could do it over this distance, Boise, but to average near on a ton over 29 legs, that's a massive box ticked, and pushed Peter Wright to play some of his best darts he's played in the last 3 months.
Yeah, Peter Wright was outstanding on Saturday night, and that was credit to Fallon, because Fallon pushed him all the way. As you said, the scoreline probably wasn't right in the first game, but this one was. Fallon could have potentially pushed him even closer. She was fantastic all week. It would have been very interesting to see, as a lot of people have questioned over the length of this day and how she would perform. We've seen it. It's been very interesting to see if she would have then gone into the Sunday. Obviously, the following day, same length, and then the same on Sunday night, to see if she could have performed that. But the question marks around the length, and it puts her in great position now for the Worlds to push on, and she knows she can perform at that standard throughout. But she was quality all week. It was a pleasure to be there and watch her perform to that standard throughout the week.
Yeah, no, completely. Some superb stuff. I'll say we'll cover that more shortly. But then the talking point, a long day ahead. 2 best of 33 games for the players. First up, it was the Iceman Gavin Price against James Wade. And again, a fairly one-sided boys. This one, Wade nicked a few towards the end when Gezi switched off, but 16-9, comfortable gob for the Iceman.
Yeah, look, the same phrase is evident here about James Wade. When he played Rob Cross and when he played earlier in the other rounds, you knew what you were getting from James Wade after 5, 6, 7 legs, because that's the level he stays at. After 2 legs, or 3 legs, I think it was, he was averaging 68. He couldn't buy a treble, managed to pinch a couple. There was about a 20-point gap in the averages, and it was 3-2 on throw. But even then, that start was just too bad for James Wade to recover from it. It looked like the injury was affecting him a little bit more on the Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. But yeah, it just wasn't a great performance from Wade. Incredibly flat. I think it was dragged up a little bit towards the end just because he wasn't getting chances to miss darts a double really go, and Price was superb. And to be able to maintain that top level that Price did without anything coming back at you is probably harder than having somebody do it along with you, because you have to be good in every single leg. You can't have a couple legs where you just score right but don't have to hit the double because your opponent's already there or done it. So yeah, that level from Price was virtually livable. His fitness is just such an asset to him. You look at the other players that played on this day, we'll get into the discussion in a minute, but it just helps so much on a day like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Evening, Mace. Hope you are good, buddy. See you on Thursday. The second semi-final, Michael Smith had played really, really well. But that final 8-leg blitz from Peter Wright, Boise, when he averaged around the 115.2 mark for those 8 legs, with nothing short of stunning.
Yeah, it was just clinical throughout. The 180s were just non-stop from Peter Wright. The finishing was unreal. There was nothing Michael Smith could do. Really, he did push him a little bit, but Peter Wright in those 8 legs was just outstanding. Fair credit for Michael Smith though, getting in that position. Just for me, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see him following the MVG performance up. How we did when he started that. Yeah, he fell off at the end, but Peter Wright was just incredible. Those 8 legs were probably the best we're going to see this year from someone in one flutter. So it was great to see.
Yeah. Moving on to the final, though, this is one where it was a huge advantage going first goal because Gezi got to leave the venue, rest, recuperate. And unfortunately, boys, spoiler alert, the final was about as good and as one-sided as Manchester United Liverpool.
I thought you were going to go the David Hay line then. I was like, no, we definitely cannot use that one at 8:20 in the evening. No. Yeah. And this will lead us on nicely to the discussion about the format. Going Price's performance was phenomenal. But to have to play 2 best of 31 matches on the same day, Snakey said he was absolutely knackered. He went second as well, obviously. Didn't start great. Price blew him away to start with, but it's just a bit of both, isn't it? Like, if Peter Wright had an extra day to replay that game, would it go differently? Possibly. That's something that we'll never know. But as we said, Going Price absolutely loves this venue, absolutely loves this event. And the final day, he was unplayable. Even if he had 3 different fresh opponents or whatever, I still think he would have come away with a trophy. Tournament-wise, he started very, very badly. The loss to Schindler in the group, possibly should have lost to Rafferty. Might have even gone home at that point. But he found a way to win, as champions do, and finds himself all the way into the final. It's really good-looking run on paper to get there if you're beating Clayton, Wade, Wright to win a title. That's not too bad. Not quite as good as what Michael Smith's run would have looked like if he'd gone on to lift it. But certainly somewhere near. And yeah, like I said, look, an incredibly one-sided final. Disappointing from Snakey. Promised us he was going to win the title, which when he's done a couple of times this year, he's delivered. The fact that he even made a final after promising that, the form he's carried the last few weeks, it is amazing to me because he looked like he was going to struggle in the group, change his darts every single match, as he does. Still looked like he had a little bit of tinkering towards the knockout stages, but a little bit more consistent with those anyway. And he just fell flat in the final.
Yeah, the interesting thing, we all, not criticised, but we asked questions of had Price made the right decision, only flying back to the UK Friday afternoon before the play on Saturday. But it's worked out for him because he got better as the tournament got on. Yes, there was a bit of rust early on, but he looked refreshed towards the end. Yeah,
he did. However, as you said, just it nearly backfired because the Damer then brought. Yeah, there was times early on where there was question marks if he was going to get through that group. But yeah, in the end, you can't really moan. He's got the trophy, he's got the money. It worked well for him, but it was certainly a risk. And something I'm guessing he'll consider if that happens next year because of the start he had to the slam.
Yeah, we've got a couple of clips to play.
I know it's a big if. If he was 2 legs away, if 2 legs had gone the other way in the Rafferty game or the Brooks game, we'd be having a very, very different conversation right now. So, yes, look, he got away with it at the big moments, and it looks like it's worked out okay, but we could have been having a very, very different conversation about the fact he started so slowly, only just made his way through, helped him in the latter stages, but in the early stages, it nearly cost him the tournament.
Yeah, agreed. We've got a couple of clips to play from Gezi and Peter from their media afterwards. Remember the full interviews over on our YouTube channel. Head over there once we are done on the live lounge this evening.
Yeah, it's nice to have the kids and the family there, but especially my wife, and I look over and she G's me up and I'm giving her all the signs, and when I'm down I'm like, oh, and then when I'm up I'm like giving it to her and she gives it back, and yeah, it's good to have someone there that I know a focal point. I spoke to you, but the hotel in the week, I said when it comes to quarter, semis, final, I seem to find that extra gear, and I did that today, and obviously against Johnny I thought that was my final. I really wanted to get through that one, get a bit of a monkey off my back, so to speak, and yeah, it was good, and I felt more comfortable after that game.
Heading towards Alexandra Palace, the way you're feeling, your form, is there anyone that's going to take that title from you?
Hopefully not, but I've got a big event next week. I'll play championship finals in Minehead, so 100% concentration on that one first, and look forward to the Worlds after that.
Interesting words from the world number one. Looks like Boise's Wi-Fi has done one. He'll come back and join us in a second.
It wouldn't be a 50th show if we did have some sort of technological problems, but it's not me.
Interesting that he actually enjoys having his family back, which I know a lot of them have said.
Yeah, it's not something they've been able to do for a long, long time. It's interesting to have them around and see the difference it makes. I still find it interesting how often the Price is the one to bring up the crowd rather than the other way around, etc. But yeah, the family there definitely helps him. If he says it keeps him relaxed and it's something else to focus on, he's got something else. But there's a lot of downtime in between games. We might be criticising the fact on the final day they have to play 2 best of 31s. But for the rest of the week, for the rest of the tournament, there's a long time to be away to and have downtime.
Yeah, definitely. And now we've got a little bit from Peter Wright.
Not really. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't like Minehead. It's too far away. It's just like stupid roads all the way down. When it says like 30 miles and it takes you 2 hours. The last 30 miles is just absolutely ridiculous. Will the people down there get some decent roads? It'd be quicker to get a boat from there to Minehead, but there you go. But it's a great place for all the dart fans, which is the main thing. And I'll be there to upset a few people.
There we are. Snakebite not a fan of Minehead, boys.
Just not got a great record there, has he? To me, he's not the first one to say it, and he definitely probably won't be the last one to say it. There are some players that absolutely love it. There are some members of our team that absolutely love it. Mr. Jarlath Eaton, if you're watching, you're definitely one of those. Some fans love it, some fans hate it. And don't get me wrong, the venue as a site for people to go and stay for the weekend, absolutely superb. The temperature, horrible. We go down to the coast in February and November. Nah. And I get that's the only time you can really get a holiday park in the UK because they're not being used, but crikey, it is cold.
It is. And if by magic, and it's as if we teed it up, boys, the 50th show, and we've got the African warrior, Devon Petersen, joining us. Dev,
yeah, what's happening, guys? You good?
Number
50. Really good, really good. I mean, you came a long way. I mean, number 50, I remember us speaking about you going on your own journey, and now you're at the 50th show. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's we've been commissioned for 50 of them and no sign of stopping, which is always good. We've said some controversial things over those episodes, and we're like, that might not go down well, but we're still here, so it's all good.
Yeah, I think saying controversial things is obviously what keeps you kicking and keeps you in the mouths of the fans. If you're saying the same things that everybody else is saying, I mean, you just become one of the newspapers anyways, just reading the story differently. But yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job and bringing darts in a different way to the fans and having a lounge. It's virtually like you're chilling out and just chatting about darts and everybody else just jamming with you.
Yeah, well,
You missed the adjective nonsense. That's what we thought, apparently.
We always said from day one that we weren't going to hide because, like you'd say, some outlets just toe the line, and we always said, look, we're just going to be us and just say how we feel, whether it's right or wrong. And like you say, people have bought into that, as you can see in the chat room, absolutely rammed every week, and people love it.
Yeah, Phil, you've never struck me as a guy that toes the line. Listening to and seeing your interviews after. And the controversial questions that you do ask, knowing that there's going to be a kind of answer you can twist and turn. But listen, you only speak the truth, and you bring it across brilliantly. So yeah, I'm happy to be on the 50th show.
First of all, mate, how are you? Minehead this weekend. This time last year, it was your best year of your career, and I'm guessing highs and lows of sport this year has been one of the lowest.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going into the tournament quite differently. I don't think I was at my very peak when I went into Minehead last year, but obviously the circumstances were different. There was no crowds. There was it was that continuation of play. It was the unpredictability and kind of just confusion of the whole pandemic and just where everything was at. And I think this season, I mean, you've asked me the question repeatedly about my wrist. And yeah, back end of the season, my wrist wasn't doing too great. And I think this time around, my wrist is like I said, in after we spoke at Minehead, no, not Minehead, when we had the UK Open. My rest has been great since then. It's just finding the rhythm and the fluency and then adding to the confidence and all of those things. So yeah, basically stripped down my complete throw and just went back to kind of basics and just kind of building it up slowly but surely and kind of getting ready for the back end and obviously the World Champs, which is everybody's focal point every year. But yeah, I'm hoping to be fully fit by the Worlds. And by the end of this week, I mean, it could be a different thing where you kind of turn up at Minehead and kind of just change the way in which people see your game.
Yeah, definitely. I know that we've spoken about watching you on the show quite a lot. I know that the boys have as well. I know you're good at saying the right things in the public domain, but looking back now, we said it, and I don't mind saying it, that wrist wasn't good, was it? And I know you said, no, it's fine, but it wasn't, was it?
No. So this is the one thing that I obviously don't talk about. I try to put out of everybody's mouth simply because it becomes a talking point all the time. And if you have a bad game, is it the wrist and blah, blah, blah. You've not said that my wrist was injured. You asked if it's okay, which is the way in which you kind of get your story across. But yeah, the wrist. It's been in the beginning it was a strike because it was doing stuff that it shouldn't have, and yeah, I've my throw deteriorated slowly but surely, and I found myself at the very low point in my game. I think it's where it does it easy right now, but luckily for me, I kind of could just strip it all away and piece it back together. Now I'm kind of finding some rhythm, some form. I'm not getting the results yet, but those things change, and Devon Petersen and Alexander Palace have a great relationship. So, yeah, I'm hoping to continue that relationship, turning Pally. That kind of reinvents not my season, but my career, and just kind of because it's the starting point of every season. So hopefully it's a great start.
Absolutely, a lot of love in the chat room as well, mate. From Dev, everyone's loving having you in the chat room, which is always good.
What's happening everywhere?
Do you think because you did a lot of work on your throw when you hit form last year with the likes of Wayne Mardle, he spoke about it an awful lot on TV, that now that you've had the injury and you said you've been rebuilding your throw, because you've been through that process with somebody already when you were fully fit, it was easier to go through again this time in the build up to the back end of this year?
Yeah, I think it's understanding, and that was always the bottom with myself and Wayne and Chris. Just discussing blueprint, so how to replicate that kind of form and that kind of throw, which will then get you closer to kind of performing euphorically in a sense where nobody can touch you. That's where Gowan Price is right now. Johnny Clayton as well in some patches. So yeah, it's that blueprint back to it and knowing your throw. I don't think there's a lot of dart players that actually know how to throw, like what their throw consists of and the pieces and trajectory. That's why you young people say, yeah, I was feeling tonight. Or so those are the things that I want to avoid. And I say on in my career, which I've probably had like 8 or 9 years already, but I still feel like the best is yet to come. So putting these in place now, the longevity when the form does return, and yeah, it will change the way in which I approach games, and the confidence will be multiplied phenomenally by just knowing exactly how to throw and what it felt like when I was at my not at the very peak, but I think at heights of my strengths, which was my scoring power and working on the finishing as well. So yeah, I think knowing exactly how to throw or how your throw works and all the technicalities that go with it is important. But a lot of players, obviously, they frown upon coaching and see it as almost like they don't want the help. But I think that for me, it's helped me like tremendously. And even at my greatest or at my highest, it was perfect. It was helping me a lot. And then at my lowest, it's probably the things that I could clutch onto and make me still feel like I have a career within darts.
Love that. Love
that. What is you said a lot of players frown it. What is the conversation around coaching like at the very, very top level? Because from the outside, people have been saying it for a long, long time that if you're an elite sportsman, there is no other sport in the world where every player goes away without being able to look at themselves or have somebody from the outside that knows what they're doing, take a look at what you're doing and say, this is where you need to improve on, or this is what you're doing differently. And it still seems quite stubborn on the tour. We're seeing a few more start opening up, Rob Cross, yourself, Dozer, etc. But it still seems very, very reluctant from the top guys. Is that conversation expanding a little bit more? Have you had people coming up to you going, what's it like? Does it help, etc.? Or not really?
Yeah, I think when I was playing really well, a lot of people wanted to know, because it seemed to them as though there was a switch or a click, and then immediately it became it was untouchable. And the conversations around it, like you could see when you enter a room, it's the vibe changes, because more just a player that fills up the numbers, or you a player that's beatable. I mean, you become the one that is now. It's almost like where the hunters, which is the top players, become the hunted. And they knew that they had bounties on their head when they played against me, which was a thing. And I could attest it to hard work and the coaching, and obviously the advice I got from the likes of Cloyd as well, Phill, Taylor. It's a whole host of things. I think a lot of players these days, especially the top tier players, feel as though they have achieved a lot up and until this point, and the coaches that exist currently probably haven't achieved as high as they have, and it's frowned upon as in, how can you tell me if you've not achieved the same? So you look at it as from a management perspective. Pep Guardiola was a great player and he's a good manager. Jose Mourinho wasn't a great player, but he's a great manager. So you look at those things, for the same thing, great player, that coach. So you look at things like that, and you see the coaches that exist currently now. It's all, for me, coaching is a personal thing. Like it's eyes on the outside, so you can see where the small things, you can feel the small things that need to change, but somebody seeing it and pointing it out, it's so much easier, and you can actually kind of medicate the problem immediately. But the players don't see it as that, and a lot of players still make mistakes, and sometimes you feel as though their peak has passed, and for them to reignite that, it's coaching will be needed. I mean, every single sports code has coaches, except darts, like dedicated coaches. I mean, you see golfers, even Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, all of these, Bryson DeChambeau, all of these top players have coaches. You have a skill, but it needs to be nurtured. And I think that a lot of players only go to coaches when they are in a bad spot. And that's the wrong way, because you kind of trying to fix a problem. Whereas when you're playing at your best, you came in to kind of improve and even perfect the current throw that you have. So yeah, I don't think that coaching is a massive talking topic, even though it should be on tour.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned football just before I move on, because my friend at the bottom of the screen, you've had a really good little bit of back and forward with over the year, Dev. You're looking quite good.
Yeah, it's not even back and forth now anymore. It's just me throwing it at him and him just kind of just sending emojis, because he doesn't have anything to say. I mean, a team like Man United, obviously performing at all, and certainly leading off coaching, not just from a football perspective, but I think just confidence coaching. So you got one of the greatest players of all time, as they would quote him. He's not doing anything, and that I think is a hindrance. So yeah, it's unfortunate that he's going to have to pay the bet at the end of the season, because they'd probably finish mid-table, and Liverpool will probably go on to win the league. But this will be recorded as the 50th show, and when they do, you can just revert back to this.
He's not, Devon, he's not one of the best players in the world, by the way. He is the best player in the world, just to clarify on
So,
you told me it was Messi when you thought he was moving to Man City.
Never. I would never say that.
I have a big thing like with regards to the greatest players. Like I don't even think Ronaldo's in the top 5. So unfortunately, he's a great player. Like you can't take it away from him, but not greatest of all time. He doesn't make the football Rushmore.
Phill, how can we hide Devon from this part of the conversation?
You invited him.
Sorry?
You want to get rid of it now, Deb. He invites you on the show. Don't like what you got to say.
I think can we go back to darts, because that will just be an absolute slandering and a slaughter of Lee at all times. So yeah, let's leave that for the personal side of it. Because I think it's literally like beating a dog. Like my friends back home that are big Man United fans, I don't even send them anything anymore. I just say, "Are you okay? Are you doing well? How's the family?" Simply because it's a constant disappointment, and it's sad. It's just, I don't know. I can't even like. There's so many people that place bets with me at the beginning of the season. I message them now and just to find out if they're okay. I don't even want to cash in on the bets because I feel as though it's like taking money away from people, like stealing money. You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. So yeah, let's rather talk about darts. Have you spoke about Fallon Sharrock yet?
No, we haven't, but we're going to bring it up. Where are you?
Wow. Okay. No, I just wanted to. I just thought. Let me just throw that out there because you got to the finals and how great it was, and seeing all of those things, and that was great.
Where are you on the Fallon for the Premier League debate? We've had many pros over the last 48 hours. Some are for.
I'm not even in the room. I don't even think it should be discussed, like Premier League, because you did what? You got to a quarterfinals and maybe a final of a World Series that you were invited to, and got a bye as well, and all of those things. So I'm gonna say this, right? Fallon Sharrock is a phenomenal dart player, and I say phenomenal simply because, not because I'm a sexist, but from a woman perspective, there's no parallel like men and women competing on different platforms in the universe where the sporting codes can combine. Only simply like darts. A sport like darts, you can play it the same. Even in golf, they play at closer tees. But darts is, even there's no bias, which is a fantastic thing, and she performed on the stage. And that's what the PDC offers. Is it offers you an opportunity, if you are good enough, whether you are male, female, or other, you can compete as long as you are good enough. And I think she is good enough. The Premier League, I think that getting an invite to the World Series is probably as far as should go for invite perspective, because she'll be great as an asset touring, and she'll grow the sport that way. Premier League it could be damaging. It could be where she turns up, because it's a different animal. It's an exhibition of top talent, and I'm not saying she's not top talent, but she's averaged 100 in this tournament that she played in now. Once she averaged between like 92, 93 consistent. In the Premier League, you could get damaged, and her confidence could drop, and we could lose the likes of Fallon Sharrock. So I feel as though keeping her away from the Premier League until she deserves it or earns it, that's great. The first thing is tour card. I think having a tour card is probably the most important thing, because then it won't seem as though she's getting everything simply because on a run of form that she had in the Women's Series, and then taking it on to the World Series and then Grand Slam. Like there's been players that made semi-finals and quarterfinals, like Dirk van Dievenbode. Last season he made 4 quarterfinals and a final. He never got the thought of for Premier League. So it just seems as though, like, from an asset perspective, you could still kind of keep her in the fold, but from a World Series, but not Premier League. I think Premier League should be kept for the elite and the players, aspiring players, to achieve that. Because once you start doing stuff like it just waters down what the Premier League means to the fans and the players.
Just throwing it out there, the Premier League has already been tarnished in recent years because players have bargained for a place in it. So it's not.
So I get that, but
it's not unheard of that places have been given when they're not necessarily deserved.
Yeah, I think from a deserved perspective, I mean, they're all professional tour players, and I also think that having those players that, like you say, have bargained for it has probably deserved it simply by winning majors, performed previously and probably not at their peak, and getting those positions. Remember that those players that are bargaining, they have taken the PDC from where it was, or carried on or took the baton from the Phill Taylor, like the likes of Phill Taylor and Barney and all of these top players, and carried it on. So I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand that those players that have the bargaining chip have a legacy that they have. If you go in on form and all of those things, it can't just be given to her, though. Because I can tell you this, though. So the Grand Slam was fantastic. Her performance in the Grand Slam, I mean, she got through, and like Gabriel Clemens was this close. He slightly shifted and shaken by her performance, and this conversation would not have happened. But obviously, she took out the 141, the 170, phenomenal. But it's not the first time a 170 has been taken out on TV. So I feel as though, like, sometimes blowing her up completely, it's almost like, look at this, a girl done this. I feel as though that kind of waters it down. It might just be my view, but I feel as though it waters it down simply because she's not just she's a phenomenal dart player. She exhibitions with the best as well. So, and she's shown that through the Modus League, through the Women's Series, and she's definitely creating that bridge and that gap and causing a stir with regards to a kind of male-dominated sport for years and years, and she's kind of the shift. But I think giving her things simply because that shift is happening now, I don't think that is going to kind of almost cement her in the darting community. Because one thing I can tell you is it turns very quickly. Like, people can love you a minute and then something happens and then it turns and then you lose that entire, and then you're going to have to wait we don't even know who's the next kind of player to bring on. Like, Lisa Ashton is amazing. And I'm not saying she's at the end of her career. She's probably still one of the stalwarts of the women's kind of scene. You got Makuru as well. That's there. You got Dieter at the end of her career, in a sense. I'm not saying that her career is ending, but obviously with age and youthfulness and and appeal, all of these factors have to be taken into account. And I think that just giving her the Premier League spot is it's not going to be accepted by all. And I think that it could turn like things sour. But what I am saying is, as the bottom line, she's a phenomenal dart player and she should be respected for that. Not just being a woman playing darts at a high level, but as a dart player, just phenomenally good.
But arguably, right now, she is the most famous dart player in the world. Commercially, and we all know Barry loves the pound note. Let's be brutally honest. His first words.
Yeah, I think
was, "I smell the money." Commercially, she makes more sense to have in there than probably 7 of the top 10 in the world. Just saying.
Okay, so I can counter that argument. The Premier League sells out all the time, right? So you get crowds. It's not dwindling. The numbers are not dwindling. So you're looking at. She gets beat the first 3 nights, right? Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, in previous years, tickets get sold out or tickets get sold. People are excited to the darts, all of these things, right? We know that the pandemic happened last season. You bring her into the darts, right? And she plays in the Premier League. She doesn't find it as comfortable as she did before because now there's more stuff. And I know that she's performed countless times under pressure where the hype was big. The Premier League is a different animal. And I feel as though she disappoints in that league. It becomes a thing that follows her and it trails her. And then it becomes like she doesn't perform after that. Like many players that have played in the Premier League and not performed well, and you see their careers go down, 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 and they disappear. The one thing is I'm not saying that she's not an asset to the sport. I'm not saying that she's not commercially viable for Sky and PDC. What I am saying is in respect for the player itself, is to get an opportunity to play on the tour, kind of sharpen your teeth on the Pro Tour. She's performed well on stage, but she's not had a tour card. So she can play well against a woman in a women's series, but when it comes to Q School, get that tour card. Then you're talking about constant performance, European tours, all of these things. Then it then changes the conversation. But up and until that time, I think that giving a player a Premier League spot that doesn't have a tour card, and we could be changing our conversation right now. If she wins 2 or 3 games at the Worlds, then I think she's in the spot for the tour card. And then it becomes like she's automatically, because based on performance and depending on the run on the form, then it becomes okay, cool. If she fails there, and I'm not saying she's going to fail, but if she does experience a difficulty at the Premier League, she still has the tour to fall back on and she won't be lost to the world. But if she doesn't have a tour card and she fails or she doesn't perform well at the Premier League, yeah, then it becomes because she struggled. She didn't perform well at the Challenge Tour. So I feel as though, like, is it going to be a step? Because she's obviously come in, she's performed well. So now she's creating that hype, and that hype is amazing. But once the air is let out the balloon and you 30,000 feet above ground, I mean, the impact that hits when you hit the ground is quite hard.
Here's one for you, and I know people in the chat room are asking. We asked for clarification from the mighty Dave Allen at the weekend about having a tour card and playing in the Premier League. The official ruling is if you are a fully fledged member of the PDPA, you can be considered for Premier League selection.
Yeah, the Premier League is always a exhibition. It's not.
It's saying that she can't because she hasn't got a tour card is irrelevant. Because
no. So what I'm saying is it's not about the tour card that makes her irrelevant. I'm saying that to say, for example, right, she's blooming right now as a flower, and you cut her. In 7 days' time, that flower's dead and the flower will not exist. Right? I'm saying leave her in the garden, let she bloom for longer, and then that's it. You don't want to lose a play. Like, the Premier League is deadly. Like, it can kill your career. I can name like 10 players that not currently in the tour right now and all played in the Premier League and experienced like a shock to the system when they played in the Premier League. And you look at their performances after that. So I'm saying that from a... Yes, she's the hyper woman now. She's performing well on stage. Men are finding it difficult to perform against her simply because of the age-old kind of caveman. She's a girl. I shouldn't be losing to her, and all of those things. Mentally, it's tough to play against Fallon right now. Of course, she's doing all these phenomenal things. What I'm saying is give her the Premier League spot. And I want to play devil's advocate here. I'm not saying she's going to fail, but I'm saying if she fails and she doesn't have a tour card, how do you bring her back? How do you invite her to the World Series after that? Let's say she ends up lost. She's not going to have an opportunity to find some resurgence and find some, she can correct it by having a good run in the tour or find some confidence. She's constantly playing against the top players, performing players in the world. A 93 average sometimes won't cut it. So my thing is I'm looking out for the player itself. I'm saying that she's great for the sport, and I hope that in whether it's this time around after the Worlds or when she goes to Q School, she gets a tour card. If she doesn't get a tour card and she's in the Premier League, I think that pressure becomes a lot more to handle. And it could cause damage.
Just one question around the women's series, because it's had 2 years now, moving to the third. Do you think the winner of the Order of Merit from the women's series should that at all, Todd?
So this is not a conversation. This is the thought I had before coming on tonight, actually, because everybody seems to be getting a tour card when you're talking about the likes of development tour, challenge tour, the European, the youth, all of those things. And it's probably in PDC's best interest to do that, simply because from a business perspective, I mean, if Fallon's got a tour card and Lisa has a tour card, then the third best player will be offered a tour card, which will then change the way in which the women's series grows, because now there's a carrot being dangled, like just get to this top level and you can then perform on the pro tour. It's the same thing as how the youth the development tour grew, and how the challenge tour remains to be so consistently full and entered everywhere, simply because there's a tour card up for grabs, there's a world championship place up for grabs, Grand Slam spot up for grabs. The carrot is big enough, and I think that in that sense, it's definitely going to happen. It just seems as though like it's the next step. And that will start growing the women's series. The PDC obviously do the due diligence and check all of these things out. But I think that it's not when. No, it's not if. It's just when.
Next year has to be. I don't like the thought of them doing it retrospectively after the fact. Like if it's not in the rules to start with, we had the issue with the European Championship where they refused to change the qualifying criteria this year, because that was the rule set out at the start of the year, and they only got 2 events, and that was the official rule as to why we couldn't do something else to get players. The likes of Johnny Clayton missing the European Championship. I know he had 2 attempts as a seed and whatever else, but it just felt daft that he wasn't in that tournament, and it's another one of those. It's the PDC for me can be very, very frustrating. I wonder if the players feel the same, in that there's such quite often inconsistency in the way that they make decisions, the way that the bottom half of the tour get their opportunities, etc., and that sort of thing.
I think the PDC, obviously, they do what is right for the business. Simply, us as players, we earn a living off from what they've created. So for them to kind of, not trial and error, but kind of make a decision, and you can understand they've always been consistent with regards to the ruling, though. And Barry Hearn doesn't change rulings. It's if that's the ruling from the start of the season, you knew what the rulings were. So we can't complain. Yes, you will complain, but ultimately it remains consistent with the ruling. So, like you were mentioning about the European tour, obviously the criteria changing. The thing is changing that criteria now and then playing it for this year simply because of the pandemic. It's easier not to change it so it remains consistent and nobody's confused. It's the same thing where they introduced the different times. So they were starting at 2 o'clock, and then they changed back to 12, and then they left the last day at 12. So it all becomes a talking point and confusion. So I think the PDC are consistent with the ruling. You know exactly what it is. I hear what you're saying with regards to the women's tour, though. Like, if it's to shoehorn Fallon in to the pro tour, I think it would be, I don't want to say wrong, but I say it will go against the consistency that they have been showing over the 2-3 decades that they have been that the PDC existed. So I feel like we won't experience that kind of shock, and it would be a shock to me if they did kind of change it. But there's different people at the helm now, and I think that from a commercial perspective, it makes commercial sense to have it there. I just feel as though, if you're doing it, like you say, in a retrospect, if they do the rule now for next season, that's great. That would mean the women's tour will grow. You'll get players from everywhere. I can guarantee you South African women will come as well. But I don't know. Obviously, the PDC does what the PDC wants. So, yeah, I feel as though I just hope that they keep everything consistent and make sure that it doesn't change that quickly.
See,
do you find it mad? Do you find it mad that the second biggest televised sport in the country, in the UK, the sport that keeps growing, keeps having this debate around what's good for the sport commercially and what occurs naturally, and what occurs through natural competition and what develops that way? This doesn't happen anywhere else. Golf have added a fund to whoever's the most active on social media, but that's literally the only place. Like, Ronaldo was a signing that made commercial sense, but they didn't. Man United aren't telling us they signed him for commercial viability. They're telling them they signed him because they wanted him in the squad. Like, it just doesn't happen anywhere else. I'm not about to go and sign another footballer because he boost my sales in China or somewhere. This is the only sport in the world where we're sat here, and fans are lapping it up as well. The amount of fans that go in, oh yeah, she's marketable, she's commercial. That means that you're buying tickets and stuff. You can't sit there and say, oh, she'll do this, she'll do that. If you're the fan base and you're saying this, but none of you are acting on it, then that's not actually happening.
That's true. I mean, you spot on with that, and I feel as though the sport itself, and I think the sports that you mentioned now, like football, that's global. Darts is growing, but it's not. It's on every continent, but it's not as big as it is in the UK, like PDC wise. So if you look at football, it's massive. So the PDC simply still fly the flagship, and they still kind of steer this Titanic that's growing so rapidly over globally. But I feel as though like the narrative is created through the media, and fans don't really if I'm honest, fans don't really think about anything else but who they want to see. If you ask them who's the best player in the world currently now, and Johnny Clayton just won the last tournament, it would be Johnny Clayton. Who's the number one player right now? It's Gerwyn Price. Did he play his best darts? No, he did not. Does that still make him the best player in the world because he just won a trophy? It's for the guys like us, like the players, or the guys like you, the Ananax of the sport that change the way in which people see and view. That's why I kind of never mention anything on Twitter about the Fallon shutout kind of movement or the everybody drinking from the same cup. I just stayed away from it simply because my view is that if you're going on because she's a woman, then I think that your view needs to change, because I mean, women can play as good as men. And secondly, obviously from a and I understood the commercial, so I was kind of torn between the two and saying something. So I'm not just going to say it for the sake of it. So yeah, I think the PDC is still capitalizing on its growth. So steering and kind of choosing a correct way. Yeah, I think it's just all up to them. They kind of run the monopoly. So whatever we say doesn't really kind of land on their ears. It might land on their ears, but they won't take it to heart, though. I think it's just what's commercially sensible and viable for the sport. And also with you got prize money that the one that their goals are is essentially to increase the prize money, so that players that are playing on tour kind of win one game and the money is increased. And I mean, the money is then, it covers your tour. So we're the only professional sport that where you turn up, you don't get a salary, or you don't, if you're just at the event, unless you're playing in a major. So yeah, there's a whole host of things that make sense in regard to creating a commercial aspect of the sport and making it financially viable for the players to perform, so that we can obviously bring you the entertainment, up our game, and all of these things. So yeah, I think for now the PDC is still dominating like they could or should be.
And then I guess before we let you go, Dev, because we've got plenty more to talk about on the 50th show, we might as well ask you a quick look ahead about the Players' Championship this weekend. Back down in Minehead, Jose de Souza first round. You snuck in at number 64. He's number one seed. I mean, in terms of number one seeds on current form, it could have been a lot worse for you. But Jose's not one to be taken lightly, is he?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's phenomenal. I mean, the few seasons that we've performed against each other, I got the better of him. But obviously at that time, I was still playing kind of a level that I could respect in a sense. At this point in time now, I feel as though it's going to be me sharpening my teeth on him and seeing as how good he can be, and knowing how good he can be, it's gonna mean that I'm gonna have to kind of have full concentration, and I want that. Yeah, Jose hasn't been his ultimate best. I've had a chat with him before at the World Cup, and I understand why he's not kind of fully fit in a sense. But yeah, it's gonna be a great game. And the crazy thing about me creeping in is I'm not had a great season, but yet still qualified for the Players' Championship, and that's just kind of testament to a hard slog and just keep swimming. So yeah, I think playing against the number one seed is not the first time, and it probably won't be the last time we encounter a number one seed. And yeah, I'm gonna just give it all my all and kind of not hope for the best, but kind of put a plan together and see if I can just unsettle the Jose de Sousa train and maybe come out victorious.
Is it more about being up on stage in front of the cameras ahead of the World Championships for you, just to put that plan in action, see what comes of it, know what you need to do, where the world is so big in terms of weighting and ranking that it can say, pretty much more than anybody how much it can turn your career around. Is that what the Players' Championship is to you this time around?
Yeah, I think for me, ultimately, I've worked on a few things. Rhythm and fluency in my throw has been something that I've not had the opportunity to kind of grasp. Everything else from a technical standpoint, understanding it all is great, but having that fluency is most important. So feeling that kind of vibe on stage will be great, and having the crowds in and just experiencing that, and especially playing on main stage as well. I mean, on the Friday evening, it will be full to capacity like it normally is, and the crowds are generally favorable in my favor always wherever I go. So hopefully that continues, and if I can turn up and shock him from the start. I mean, I know that he's a great runner in the game. When he's ahead, he can lead great, and it's tough to catch him. But I've also seen where he fumbles if you shock him in the beginning. So I'll just go with a fumble strategy and just kind of lead him 3-0 and beat 6-3. That's kind of where I'm at.
You've just made Phill a very happy man. He's not convinced about Jose's ability to scrap out a game if you put him under pressure a little bit.
You see it all the time though. Like I watch, especially key players. I watch what they're doing. And you can see his shoulder goes into the throw. He starts to lunge a bit more. He starts to think a lot more about it. He makes lots of mistakes, not just calculation mistakes, but you can see like setups and so on and so forth. And just he kind of falls apart basically. And I'm not saying that he's a poor player. He's a fantastic player. But I know that there is faults. Like being a pundit as well. When I was doing the commentary, I mean, these are the things that we would look out for, and seeing it, and you can see him capitulate. And yeah, I'm not hoping for that, but I'm hoping for a good game. But if that happens, then I'm there to vacuum it up.
Just a quick one, Dev, before you go. That last Players' Championship, when you're sat in 64th and you're out early and there's nothing you can do, how much were you watching darts rankings?
A lot. It was a different feeling, simply because I went into that weekend not looking at any of the rankings, because I thought I just need a few wins and I'll be fine. Never got the wins, played okay. Felt like I played decent enough to win, but the players that I played against just kind of turned up and performed and just took out crucial shots. So yeah, when I got back to the hotel, and I was like, let me see if I qualify, because in my mind I never qualified. And then I saw, hang on, I'm still in with a shout. And then I have never refreshed dart rankings that many times. I think my battery died nearly, and then I had to charge it because I was refreshing all the time. But listen, I think the big thing for me is being in the tournament. That is, regardless of whether you're number 1, number 64, wherever you are, as long as you're in the major, things can happen at majors. Things can change, can fall in your favor. Like I got to the UK Open quarterfinals with a almost broken wrist. If that can happen, and I took Gezi to a 10-9, kind of, it could have gone my favor if I hit the 32 on the 109. And I'm just saying things like that can happen. And when you get to a tournament and there's that feeling can change how you feel about your next tournament. And we all know the next tournament is the World. So my big thing is just going there and just smiling all the time and just enjoying every moment on stage. Because simply, if you go in there and your shoulders are down and you look defeated, you will lose. But if you smile and they know that they must feel your presence, it changes the way. It could change the outcome. And I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a massive task to kind of defeat Jose de Sousa, but like David and Goliath, the story goes, David did come out on top.
Dev, absolute pleasure having you on, mate. I know you've gone over your time slot. I know you had some other stuff on this evening, but from us and everyone in the chat room,
I just need
very much
I need to go work on these guns.
coming
I
on.
need to go work on the guns. It's been an absolute pleasure again.
Absolute pleasure.
Congratulations on the 50th episode. Well done.
Pleasure, big
Cheers,
man.
Devon.
See you in Minehead.
See you, Minehead, big man. And that, everyone, was the African Warrior. And breathe. However, whilst that was going on, we were also having a very interesting WhatsApp chat, eh, boys?
Maybe. We're now very, very behind on our schedule for our 50th ever show. So
50th ever show might be going for extra time, everyone. We might be doing a few extra minutes. Right. Back in the room, the Players' Championship in Minehead. Mace is in the chat room. We'll be fronting the ITV coverage as always. The schedule has been released. Boys, it's going to be a busy day.
Always. When isn't it a busy day in Minehead? It's ridiculous.
Right. Are we going off schedule order or draw bracket order?
Draw bracket.
Right.
There's no real shocks in the schedule. There's no real shocks in the schedule, is there? Everyone that you pretty much expect to be on stage one is to start with. There's a couple of decisions that possibly could have gone either way. There's a couple of games that more out-and-out darts fans would possibly love to see. The likes of Ross Smith versus Rusty Jake Rodriguez could possibly have been a main stage given the form those two are in, etc. But yeah, there's no real big surprise. You get the odd one in the afternoon. James Wade, Nathan Aspinall being afternoon games, but somebody has to miss out at some point, don't they? And you look at the names in the evening session, no surprise to see Barney straight back in the action, Gary Anderson, Stephen Bunting, two great form players, Cross, D'Souza, Price, Van Gerwen, Wright, Clayton. Very, very difficult to leave out A.D. Lewis, Kim Hybrex, I think, but that's why it's closed in the afternoon on the main stage, I think, because that's one that they can build up to.
Yeah, definitely. So if we're going in draw bracket order, boys, first up, Jose against the man we've just had on, Devon Petersen. And I'm intrigued that, don't get me wrong, I know I was laughing and joking, but it's interesting that other players are thinking the same, boys, and they can see that. Take him to deep water.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
And to be honest, I didn't see it doing close as well. It's a game where neither of them are in the best of form, where they've been before. So it's certainly one that can go all the way. And yeah, it's very interesting that a lot of people are looking at Jose in the latter stages of games, and especially in this format early on. It opens up for a potential of our first seed going and coming through that as well. It's not an easy tie for whoever comes through it with Merv and Darius to follow up.
Yeah, Merv and Darius up next again. Tricky little tie. Are we going through them all first round or just the key ones?
There's a lot to go through. Maybe we just go through the key ones.
To be fair, I'm just looking at it. Gezzy's in quite a nice little half, isn't he? Or a little quarter, should I say. I don't
You
see...
say that. Jason Lowe has a little bit of history at Minehead.
Yeah, but he's going there in no form.
Not as much history as he should have, because he definitely should have beaten Michael Van Gerwen, and he's not in the same place he was. But yeah, look, Martin Schindler, Ian White, Brendan Dolan, Chaz Barstow, PDC's TV debut. Yes, please.
Well,
as well,
you say Martin Schindler. You say Martin Schindler.
But
Martin Schindler beat him last week.
He did.
In a similar type format. So is it then? Is it still sits then?
Mind you,
yeah.
As well, Twitter beef, Ian White picking on Webby, that went down well on Twitter, didn't it?
Did he? I missed that one.
Ian wasn't happy with the Sky commentary, and Webby actually replied to him, "Do you care to elaborate, Ian?" And didn't.
Yeah, I saw it up to there. I didn't see any more explanation from Ian.
Yeah,
Ian
White didn't come back. But look, I like that. I think Chizzy's got a tricky little tie in that quarter against Richie Edhouse, and that's a potential little banana.
Bags of
skin.
180s in that one. Bags of 180s
Yeah,
in that one. Back the over. That is my only offering in that one. Back the over 180s.
Yeah. Declan, yeah, stage 2 is on PDC TV. Shawnee Mac is in the chat room as well. Hope you are well, mate. Section 2.
And just before we do move on, Phil, I've just put up a poll before we go on to our next conversation. This isn't should. This is if you were head of the PDC, if you were Matt or Barry, would you put Fallon Sherrick in the Premier League this year?
Can you
not should she, not for the PDC. Would you, if you were the head of the PDC, put Fallon Sherrick in the Premier League? That's what I want to know.
I just need to vote from a few accounts. Give me a sec. Oh, sorry.
We don't do that here. We don't do that here. No.
Section 2 is interesting. That top section, Michael Smith, Willie Borland, Daryl Gurney, Alan Suter, Callum Ridds, Mensur Sudovic, James Wade and Ricky Evans is intriguing.
Yeah, very much so. I'm looking at the Ridds Mensur one as one that's very interesting. Ridds has been in some great form this year, obviously picking up a couple of Pro Tours. And Mensur, I've seen someone mention it before, how long it took Mensur to get over the defeat last time to Fallon. And will that then have a knock-on effect?
Completely.
Then, so same really with Wade. Will Wade be fully recovered? I can see Callum Ridds having a good run, and one I'm looking forward to being seeded 13 as well. So very, very difficult quarter to call though.
That's an unbelievable part of the draw, by the way. Just looking at every game in there, they just look good.
Again, this is how bad I'd be as a professional darts player. If I'm playing Mensur now, I'd change my walk-on song to Katy Perry.
You're not allowed. PDC work. And you don't get walk-on, it's joint. You know that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. Oh, to be fair, if I'm the same guy, I'd be causing chaos. I'd be giving them that.
I was about to say, can PDC still play it?
They don't use any players walk-on when they do it. The only one they ever done is Freed from Desire by Gala because...
You're incorrect. The joint walk-ons in the group stages, they used Danny Knoppett's walk-on song. No further questions, Your Honour.
Silly boys. Who walked on to Freed from Desire the other year?
Joe Cullen used it for a while.
No, one of the Dutch lads. He got him a joint interview at the end.
Oh, Jimi Hendrix.
That's the one.
I'll
tell you what, though, they're on that little bit of the draw there. Ryan Searles, Simon Whitlock, Ryan Joyce, Luke Woodhouse. Crikey.
Yeah. Interesting. Look, right now, you'd fancy Ryan Searles to come through Whitlock on current form.
Whitlock just has this knack of sneaking into things, though, doesn't he? He was another one that got in pretty late, wasn't he? Yeah, 60th.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a run on the final day, but that's the only bit that he's done.
Yeah.
I thought it could be interesting as well. Jeff Smith, Nathan Aspinall. Aspinall missing the slam. Jeff Smith winning the Continental Cup. That could be a nice little one.
A lot of talk about that one as well.
A
lot of talk about Jeff Smith winning the Continental Cup.
Well,
also as well,
the same principle applies to Callum Ridds. So, if Callum Ridds wins the World Youth on Sunday, he has to forfeit his Pro Tour spot and he goes in the international qualifying bracket. That's not right, is it?
Don't agree with you. Do not agree with that.
The same as Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith has now lost his Pro Tour place and has to go the international qualifier spot. That's not right.
No, but they should. It's a negative. And if the qualifiers were for those one thing only, then fine, they shouldn't be in them. Or if that's the way they want to go and secure it, and then if they get a tour card spot later on, then that's their own fault. But when there's more on the line than just that World Championship spot, like there was for Jeff Smith, it was a straight shoot into the World Series event, I think it is.
Yeah.
and being World Youth Champion speaks for itself. When there's more on the line than just the World Championship spot at these qualifiers, it's not fair on the players that in order to get one, they have to demote themselves at the World Championship for the other.
Yeah, completely. Also, Murph is in the chat room as well. Superb today, Murph. And once we have done this, we have got the Wolfie 9 data to show you all. It is teed up absolutely sensational from Wolfie today. But yeah, I don't agree with that rule. We're past the watershed. It's shit.
Yeah.
Look,
I agree with you on that.
there are an awful lot of good things that the PDC do very, very well. I think there needs to be some sort of discussion next year where they sit down and look at these backdoor entries, these double opportunities, Dev Tour players playing on the Pro Tour and vice versa. And once you've got a tour card, should you be allowed to play on affiliate tour and make your way into that and the European qualifiers and all those sort of things? I think they need to sit down and have a real look at the way that they're structuring everything. And it's almost where the PDC has built itself up for the last 15 to 20 years and kept adding things and events and opportunities. It's almost been they'll make a rule to go around what already exists rather than changing what's already in place as they built their structure up. And I think they're too big right now. And there's too many different ways that are just overlapping slightly that just make things hazy and a bit blurry and perhaps make things more difficult than they should be. It's easy to go, no, this is the rule, that's fine. But actually at the same time, we do keep getting these situations where the players are backdooring it perhaps or that sort of thing. The Dev Tour one's always going to rumble on, I think, and a couple of others. So, yeah.
Speaking of the Dev Tour, again, heard today from a very, very good source, it's being looked at that it's going, the ranking position is going to go up to 64 from 32. So if you're in the 64, you then can't go and play on the Dev Tour. It's being looked at, I was told today, from a very good source.
I 100% think that's right. Look, when it changed its name from the Youth Tour to the Development Tour, for me, that should have been symbolic. If you're going to call something a Development Tour, just because you've got the ages up to 23, I think that's why they changed it to the Development Tour, because you're not a youth at 23. So you could be World Youth Champion at 23, it's beyond me, but you're not a youth, and that's just language rather than anything else. But if the purpose of that tour is to get you ready to be a professional dart player or get you to a level where you can learn in that environment and compete, etc., the minute you get through Q School and you hold a tour card, you are developed. You are one of the best 128 players in the world competing against the other 127 week in, week out. You should not be getting opportunities to go and pick up free cash, backdoor and entries just because you're under the age of 23. And I said the same when I was playing, and that wasn't because I wasn't any good. It's just not fair.
Yeah, agree with you, Dob, on not just that one, but across all the tours. I think you should only be able to play in one. Same with the women's series. All those, I personally think if you're in the main tour, you shouldn't then be able to play across the others. But it just, for me, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
and then you get like Scandinavian qualifiers and all that sort of thing. The players just disappear to go and play. And look, I know it raises the popularity of the sport. If you get a big name in one of those qualifiers, yes, it raises the profile of that wherever you are. But at the same time, you're one of the best 128 players in the world. Go and compete with those players to get there.
Moving on. We went off tangent a little bit there. Bottom half of the draw. This top section of the bottom half is unreal. Peter Wright versus Keane Barry. Adrian Lewis versus Kim Hybrex. Damon Hetta versus Steve Lennon. Gabriel Clements versus Steve Beaton. Now it gets interesting. MVG against Kevin Dowitz. Raymond Van Barneveld about Mike Kuyvenhoven. Let's be fair, we all want Barney MVG second round, don't we? Dirk against Ryan Meikle. Stephen Bunting against Gary Anderson. Woohoo! What a top little segment that is.
Yeah, it is it's a nice one. It's hard not to look at Adrian Lewis, Tim Hybrex as a fan wanting to see that over a London format. It's going to be a great first round game. And I agree with you on the Barney. Who wouldn't then want to see Anderson?
You're there. You're back.
So then, sorry.
So you froze
froze
again,
a
mate.
minute.
You're having a god moment.
It's not me.
Never had these issues before. Show 15, it's all happening. I'm not enjoying this at all.
It is,
and then
I've never seen this though. You know, if you look at the draw on Wikipedia, and if the players are from the same nationality, they start edging the flags through. I've seen it with the English flag a million times over. There is already a Dutch flag in the third round.
Yeah.
Because there are 10 Dutch players in this draw, and 5 of them appear consecutively next to each other on the bracket. How random and mad is that?
Yeah. Bonkers. And then section 4. It's a little bit kinder, shall we say. Not quite as stacked.
Yeah.
In terms of names, perhaps, but in terms of good matchups and players that are actually playing in form a little bit, Clayton's looking sharp. Scott Mitchell can produce anything. Martin Clearmacher's not the player was at the start of the year, but he's still more than capable. Ross Smith, Rusty Jake Rodriguez is a hell of a tie after looking at the way that Rusty Jake has picked up everything on the Dev Tour, got a little bit of stage experience last week, obviously. Luke Humphreys is in this part of the draw. Joe Cullen against Andy Bolton. You can never write Bolton off. Van der Voort looked pretty good for the last couple of weeks. He's started to pick up results again. It's absolutely no coincidence that the fact that Michael van Gerwen is starting to play a lot better and a lot more consistent at the same time that Vincent van der Voort is. We know how good friends and how much they can practice together. Dimmy's in this part. Okay, we don't know how fit he's going to be, but he's still in there against Matters Rasmus, who's more than capable either way. And Danny Noppert is one of the most consistent televised players on the tour this year, and he takes on the other RJR. So, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not quite got the razzmatazz that Section 3 does, but there's still a fair bit of competition in there.
Right. You know what's coming. I would like semi-finalists, please. And in the chat room, come and get involved. Who is going to be your semi-final lineup? Right.
Really?
Only we prep for this in a show where we're short for time because we've still got plenty to do.
Well, you know. I've not been very adventurous with mine.
Shock. I can tell you yours already. I can tell you 3 of yours. I'm struggling for section 2 for you. I know where you're going with the other 3. And even then, I think I've just worked out your 4th.
To be fair, from section 2, I've got one, and then I put a little dash next to it with another. That if it's not him, it will be him. Does that make sense? But I think my first one.
Rob Cross.
No.
Oh. Oh.
Ryan Searle.
Right, so my semi-final lineup, I've gone Gerwin Price will play.
Oh, we knew that one.
Michael Smith.
Yeah.
But
Johnny Clayton against Michael van Gerwen in the bottom half.
And then I put a little dash with Rid's question mark.
I can see that.
But yeah, bottom half, MVG, Johnny Clayton.
Yeah, shock.
So
imagine my surprise.
I've done for Price. I've done for Rids out of section 2. And then the bottom half I've done MVG, but up against Luke Humphreys.
Ooh. We're writing off Johnny Clayton again.
Yeah. With nothing to back it up at all, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm about to do very, very similar, to be honest. Section 1, Christoph Ratajski. Fly, the Peagle, fly. Section 2, Rob Cross. The man has stamina. Section 3, I think this one's an absolute lottery. And do you know why? Because I think Raymond van Barneveld beats Michael van Gerwen in the second round. He has a knack. He just has a knack of doing it at the wrong moment for Michael. But I don't think he's got it to go all the way to the semi-final, which leaves it very, very open. 4, let's say it. We see Adrian Lewis make a semi-final. Why not?
They're on job.
Oh, it's 50th. I got to say something stupid. And in the bottom section, I'd love to see a run from Ross Smith or Luke Humphreys, but Johnny Clayton, because I said he'd win this tournament before we did the Grand Slam.
I see where you're going.
Price, Ridds, MVG, and Luke Humphreys for semis. Price, that's the better of Ridds, and MVG, that's the better of Luke Humphreys. Very boring answer, but I'm going for Price, MVG in the final. With MVG getting the title.
I'm getting a lot of stick.
Yeah. Where are you going for the title?
Barney just got the knack, and Johnny Clayton wins this one. Adds it to his ever-expanding trophy cabinet this year.
I'm going to get it right eventually. MVG wins. He beats Price in a barnstormer on Sunday night.
Gob, you know that notepad that Phil's got? He said he ain't got tournaments on anymore. He's just that MVG wins it on page 1, and he just looks at it every Monday.
No, he rewrites it out every time, just in case. Because look, I did it for this one, I promise. He doesn't just keep tapping the same bit of paper. It's just a page full of going MVG wins.
MVG Price. A couple of people asking in the chat room about what happens if Callum Ridds gets through to the World Youth and the Sunday. Basically, there's got to be some clever TV scheduling for him to play in both. But spoke to his management team today, and they have been assured it will be worked out so he can play in both. So Sunday won't be played in draw bracket order. What I think they'll do is if he's through, I think they'll put Callum on first Sunday afternoon so they can clear off to Reds and get it out of the way. So, chat room, who are you going for? Sean McDonald, Death Taxes and MVG wins. He knows. Tugboat says, hello, chaps. Hope you are well.
Tug.
Yeah. Bill says, maybe right. I'm still not convinced about Peter Wright's form at the moment. I know he got to the final at the weekend, but in doing so, he dodged a lot of bullets to get there, and I'm not sure you can continue to dodge those bullets, boys.
He doesn't like Minehead. If he starts slowly on the stage with potentially darts changing around again, he'll get punished. It's a short format. There's no time to get away with it. There's no group stage to work your way into the tournament this time. He has to hit the ground running. And if you come out and say you don't like this tournament, you're probably already a little bit behind in your mentality and prep.
Yeah, and add to that as well the section that he's in. It's not a nice section at all.
No.
If he wins it, he's got to be at his best for me this weekend. where some might have a bit of an easier start than what Peter's done.
Yeah. I just think that this is the dress rehearsal for a lot of people. So it's going to be an interesting one. So that is the Players' Championship. Now, we promised to you it. I'm just going to tee it up. I've actually loaded the wrong one up, so you're gonna have to have the adverts for YouTube as well. But this happened today on the Live League.
Didn't the Live League worked?
Yeah. I know why. 2 seconds. I forgot to take Dev out of the box.
Just a bit where we need Murph. Just fill in for us for a sec.
So look, it's Martin to throw first. Game on.
The Wolf with new darts produced this today.
If you have missed any of the action, highlights throughout the day are posted at Darts Live League on Twitter. Full sessions can be viewed at the Online Darts YouTube channel.
140.
Will this leg be one that will be added to a highlight reel as Adams kicks off with a maximum? Maybe it will.
The fact we'd already seen Scott go 8 and Thornton go 6 at this
What
point.
on earth is
Well,
going
by the
on
way.
today? That is the third time now in 5 matches that we've seen a player kick off with back-to-back 180s. Now it's Martin Adams looking to produce perfection.
93. Martin, you require 141.
Williams missed the double for a 9-darter himself in the first match of the day. Martin Adams gets a go at double 12. And Adams nails the 9-darter. Remarkable
Adams.
scenes here at the Live League. Well, it's been coming all day. Robert Thornton went 6 perfect darts. Scott Williams himself went 8. But it's wonderful Wolfie who produces perfection at the Live League.
That was a bit good, boys, wasn't it?
Just a little.
Mace disagrees. He says the treble 19 was crap. The double 12 though was slap bang in the middle. You could not have asked for a better double. Like, you've got space just to jolt it in any direction you want at that point. Superb.
Yeah, look, new set of darts as well. They look quite nice as well. The Wolf just casually picks them up. 9-darter, a few high averages, 10+ average in there as well. It was,
staying on the
decent
tail
stuff.
of Jose Justicia very nicely as well. The Live League has gone a little bit international the last couple of weeks, Bill.
You reckon that's international? You wait till next week.
Oi, oi.
Oi, oi. Also, as well, guest appearance on the refereeing front coming this week as well from someone. Ah.
That was my invite.
This one's a little bit more high profile.
Just a little.
No such thing.
Yeah.
No such thing.
But yeah, Mason just said there. Jose, 5 from 5. He played again some wicked stuff today.
Solid. You think that's a player that's not on the tour? He has been in the past, not the most consistent. Obviously, probably more famous for having a fight with Adrian Lewis than he is actually playing darts. But you know,
Yeah, I know completely.
very, very good.
Also, Gob, now it's your turn. The World Seniors qualifier in Reading. This was your baby, so over to you.
It was my baby, and it's staying my baby as well. You don't know this yet, but I'm going to the next set of qualifiers too, because that was announced during the event. The second World Seniors event will take place at the Lakeside. the Turkish Challenge,
Lakeside.
and then Lakeside for number 2 for the Seniors World Masters, I think is the tournament's official name. Yeah, look, after finally getting to Reading in the longest journey in the world, for something that's only 2 hours away, it took me nearly 5. Look, it was just a great weekend. First time I met Mace in person. Was like we'd known each other years, for God's sake. Started brightly, didn't you, Mace, on the Friday night? 100.2, 102.3 at one point, 2 or 3 matches, and then just didn't quite. 2 tough games. Dawson at one point and Jim McEwen, I think, were the ones to beat Mace. But look, it was a really great weekend. It was the first time that club has ever held a darts event, and I think the next qualifier is going to be there too. They might have a rejig of the configuration, but the stage setup looked really good. The streaming was pretty good. Things we can work on with that one. So we didn't have a commentator or anything on it for the day, but still looked pretty good to me. And just the people in the room, right? The fact that it was the amount of players that came in and said it was like an old pro tour, and that they were just happy to be in the room, etc. That was class. That made it worth it from the start. But the fact there is something being built there, the quality of darts on show throughout the weekend was very, very good. Plenty of players going over the 100 mark. Not many dropping below like 77, 78, which when you consider just the chances that these guys are getting and still playing is superb. I genuinely think the standard of some players in the room will be better than some of the players that got in as wildcard entries as well. These guys are still playing darts a lot more frequently than some of those wildcard entries. Plenty of interviews with big name players that you've seen in the past. Dennis Smith, Ronnie Baxter's was very, very interesting. He was another that wasn't too happy about being left out, and then back to 2 first round losses, which I was like, that's not the way to make your point, is it? But as is the way that it goes. It was just great to see some people, plenty that told me they watched the show as well. That was my biggest takeaway from the weekend. The first time I'd done media as a flying solo from this point of view, got to manage our social media channels and World Seniors, got to work with some great people behind the scenes, the streaming guys, the guys from World Seniors. Helen Chamberlain was superb, but the amount of guys coming in the room that just went, I watch your show. Like, to walk up to Mark Hilton is the story that I'm going to use, because he was the first player that I ever saw in exhibition and played against. To walk up to him filming from behind in a practice game, etc., and he just turns around and goes, I've seen you on the telly, and then makes a point to come up to me and goes, I watch your show. I was like, no, you don't. And the amount of players in the room that said the same thing, that they're watching, it's just mad. I just don't get it. But it was brilliant, and I can't wait for the next one.
To be fair, you said about players watching. That WhatsApp tonight says that.
Yeah.
But no, the World Seniors is a great addition to the calendar as well, because like in other sports, when you fall off the tour in darts, there's been nowhere for these to go, and now there is, which is truly remarkable. And for everyone noticing, yes, that is my Christmas tree behind. It came out the loft today. I haven't had a chance to put everything else up, but don't worry, boys. Christmas is coming. The rule is, as soon as you see the Ali Pali advert on Sky, they can go up. That's the rules. I don't make them. I just enforce them.
Stupid rules.
No. No.
But yeah, no, look, great standard of the qualifiers, and interesting that Kevin Burness has gone straight in as second favourite, having qualified.
Massive. He played very, very consistently over the weekend. Colin McGarry played very, very consistent over the weekend. He won the flyer, found himself in the last 8 both days as well. He was superb. Jim McEwen's another that played really, really well. Ian Moss was a surprise name in there. He's one that has been on the tour for a while, for a couple of years, but then dropped off. We haven't really seen a lot of him since. Look, it was just superb, I think. Superb that these guys have got somewhere to go. And I think Jason Francis summed it up the best. He was like, the conversation around seniors has been happening for so long for darts fans and people are involved in the sport. And he's like, nobody's touched it. And everyone's like, well, this obviously makes sense, but they couldn't work out why nobody has done it. And that was the apprehension to start with. But the response it's got so far from the players that are all, they're just wanting more. The amount of players that come up and went, when will this be a full tour? I'm absolutely loving this. It's got me something to play for again and all that. It's just, I don't see any downsides to it at the minute. Genuinely don't see any downsides to it at the minute. If they can keep selling out iconic venues like the Circus Tavern, like Lakeside, I don't see it doing like a Premier League size venue. I'm just not sure it will ever be that great commercially, that size. Like, that's an awful lot of tickets to sell, but you can keep it over short weekends. You don't get too expansive with 10 days of a World Championship and that sort of thing. The shorter they can keep it, the more attractive. Yeah,
just needs to work like it is. And I know, like, there was a lot of laughing and joking, but if the first one or the second one carries on to work, Barry will get involved, like he did with the snooker. He left it alone for a few. It worked. He gets involved.
And ultimately, if this becomes an affiliated tour that feeds into it, perfect. But the issue is that players that are winning that tour might not necessarily want to be back on tour, because some of them still very much have the ability to do so, but have dropped off the tour because they just weren't interested. If Phill Taylor was to go and dominate it for the next couple of years, he has no interest in returning to PDC Darts as a tour card holder. As a backdoor World Championships entry, not sure he'd be too upset about that one, playing at Ali Pali. But for the rest of it, like, if it was to be a tour card system, then no.
None of them would want the tour card way, but maybe a place at the Worlds or a place at the Slam would work if this works long term.
Yeah, place at the Slam for me would be a great show to start it off, and that might push on in years to then be something for the World. But place at the Slam would be a great place for me for maybe the finalist, not just the winner, but maybe the finalist.
Yeah, top two.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Again, some interesting talk in and around the Slam this year. I think that this might be the last year at Wolverhampton, if I'm being honest. Listening to the general, I think it could be welcome to the morning side.
No. Going price will be livid.
So will I.
A few questions about seniors odds quickly. Is Taylor odds on favourite? Wolfie must be close to favourite for the seniors. Top four are Phill Taylor, Kevin Burness, Robert Thornton in third, and Martin Adams in fourth at the minute. Because I double check that one, because Thornton and Adams are in the same group this morning in the live league.
Yeah, but obviously that can change, because Thornton, Burnett could go and win a tour card at Q-Score, so that might change. But look, it is what it is. Weekend darts, boys. Have we missed anything else, right?
We've touched on Jeff Smith qualifying. There's been plenty of other little qualifiers. I think Owen Rolos qualified for the World Youth for a satellite competition. Don't know, to be honest.
The only thing I can think, the calendar was released since our last show. The PDC calendar was released for January to October.
Yeah. Again, up till October. And again, I think that tells a lot, because the ones that haven't released are the ones that are having potential venue changes.
Yeah.
It is the JDC World Championships this week. Boise's god-awful shirts. Yeah, we missed them. It was Sky Sports Boys for the week. See more of him than we did the stage.
Boise, step the cameraman a tenner. Get me on as much as you can.
It worked.
Paul Lim back to the Palace.
Yes. Shock. Death taxes and Paul Lim at the World Championships.
Yeah. I was going to say, James. Yeah, it was Ladbrokes that priced them up. So yeah, the calendar's released. Not too many surprises. I suppose not a surprise, but the PDC been a little bit creative with their dates, shall we say, on a couple of events. Q School starting the same day as the WDF World Final, and the first Pro Tour weekend the same weekend as the seniors.
Yeah. More upset about the second one because we've got to do Pro Tour Live because that will be returning next year after Q School Live. We'll be here for every day Q School, then Pro Tour Live. Not quite ready to expand to do Challenge Tour and Ladies Series and Dev Tour and all of that yet because we just would not have any time to do anything else. But yeah, Pro Tour Live will be back next year, but obviously that does clash with the opening day of the World Seniors, so we are a little bit struggling with that one.
Whilst we're talking about Q School clashing with the WDF Worlds, we have to ask the question. Only 12% of all tickets sold for the WDF Worlds. Is it almost making it unviable?
I think they have to go ahead with it no matter what. They've lost too many events so far. They've lost the World Open in Holland, etc. They're still running the qualifiers in the next couple of weeks. This World Championships for them has to go ahead no matter what. The fact they weren't competing with MAD, then you could put it down to a bad year and that sort of thing. But if we're going to have an amateur World Championships, and it is going to be run by the WDF, they have to get in first, which is why they've gone with the dates that they have, and that's why the venue wanted it as well, and that sort of thing. I think that was definitely part of the discussion and the conversation as to why those dates have been picked and not perhaps an Easter that has been spoken about for a long time. It just has to go ahead no matter what. They have to get it back on TV. They have to get people knowing that it's still a thing, because let's be honest, for the casual darts fan, Oki Balboa on Twitter recently noted something that the WDF Twitter had something like less than 3,000 followers.
Yeah.
That's not enough for a governing body of the game. So they need the exposure to draw people to that, and they do that by having darts on the TV.
Yeah,
they have to raise awareness. Look, however, if you speak to any casual darts fan, all they know is that the BDO is dead. They don't know the WDF about it. They don't know there's a second World Championship coming. Unless they're Twitter or our guys or whatever, that's the issue.
I just don't get it. As in, there's a lot of money at stake been put up. We all know Mr. Potter isn't the easiest person to deal with. And the deal that's been struck, right now, he is set to lose an absolute fortune. Is he going to stomach it?
He's taking the promotion business. He's made a fair penny from it in the last 25 to 30 years, though, any Phil. So, look, if it gets one back up and running, and it means that next year they've got a full venue, or once the draw's out, that it starts getting filled up a little bit more, like Mason that are saying in the chat room as well, that makes a big difference at that level. At PDC level, people are going to buy tickets and just hope you get a decent draw, but know you're in for a good night anyway. The draw of names at that level that are still involved are going to make a massive difference.
But again, the biggest draw will not be there either, by the look of it. The BDI people on Twitter clocked it at the weekend. It looks as if Fallon Sherrick will not be going to Lakeside because she's due to play in a PDC Europe Gala during the WDF Worlds.
Not really a surprise, I don't think. Is it? It's not for me anyway. When I saw it, I thought it was what we expected.
It is a little bit for me.
It's disappointing. I was saying about the numbers that are there. That will increase, but how much will it increase? And for that to be on our screens and potentially have empty venue for some days, it's going to be a shame. And for the first event, as they're labelling it. But yeah, I'm not really surprised with Fallon. What made you say you are, Dob?
Because Fallon is not a world champion. And to me, and for people watching, if we ever have a discussion over who's the best ever, when we start looking at A.D. Lewis, etc., being world champion still means something. And that WDF field for the Women's World Championship will still be the top women in the world competing for the World Championship.
Minus Lisa.
And being able, and honestly, from a PDC point of view as well, being able to market Fallon as the Women's World Champion in the PDC game as well would make her even more commercially viable. And I know that's a risk you take if she doesn't win it. The same way that Devon was saying it's a risk that if she loses 6 games in the Premier League and flops out in the first round, that you've lost that a little bit. But it was the same risk going to the ladies series and making her qualify for everything, and she came through that with flying colours this year. Her game has improved. She'd be a massive, massive favourite for that World Championship. And being a world champion means something to people that watch the game.
Nah, not for me.
What do you mean not for you? It just does. Every time we've ever had a discussion about who's the best, and we look at the likes of James Wade's legacy and whatever, the same thing pops up. James Wade has won titles over 3 different decades, one of the most consistent performers we're likely to see on a dartboard. But the same thing is always brought up about James Wade. He does not have a world championship.
A PDC one, yes. At the moment, I don't think you can credibly say, call yourself a world champion if you win Lakeside.
Why not? Because, Phil, we've had this discussion before. The only difference between the tournament that's about to happen in January this year and tournaments of yesteryears is that there is a different company name behind it. And that was the image they had to get rid of. It is literally the same qualifying criteria from the same events worldwide with the same field. And that ladies field is the strongest ladies field in the world. That's just how it works. That is the Ladies World Championship. The PDC don't have a Ladies World Championship. They've done it once. It didn't work for them. They've decided that darts is a meritocracy and anybody can achieve anything. But being a world champion means something. Whether you're contracted to whoever or you're your PDC's next ticket.
As we said the other day, later next year, MAD are going to have their first world championship, correct?
They are, yes.
So if Bo Greaves goes and wins their women's event, I've just picked Bo out of the air, by the way. It could be anyone. Can you legitimately call her a world champion?
She's a world champion of some form. I think there are too many world champions, but at the minute, that WDF will be more recognised by more people than the MAD title will.
But why? It's their first world championship.
Because it's a continuation of the BDO. In all but name, it is a continuation, and you know it is. You know it is.
Right. Every interview that Richard and Nick have given are saying this is our first world championship. We're nothing to do with what's gone on.
Because the BDO name is so tainted. It's the same way that Rangers were a completely new company, but they're not about to get rid of all that history.
As a new organisation, the same as MAD. They're both running their first ones. Which one's better? Which one's got legitimacy when they're both the first?
The WDF. Because it's the same qualifying criteria. It is the same tournaments, the same way to get there. We've been over this before. It is. Why are you not having it? You just refuted it on the basis that you don't want to believe it.
I'm just saying that they're both the same. It's their first ones. Forget the qualifying criteria. I could go down the Legion, set up a world championship. I'm the only entry. I'm a world champ then, yeah?
No, because no one likes you. So no one's coming to that, and you know it. It just is. Mate, it is literally a continuation in all but name, and you know it is. They just had to get rid of the toxic BDO name image that is associated with it. The BDO have run it on behalf of the WDF for the last 30-odd years. 40-odd years. God knows what it is. It just is a continuation of it. And anyway, it's 10 o'clock. We haven't done question time. We haven't done our giveaway. And we haven't done Lee's little feature. So this show is going to get a little bit longer.
Look, my opinion, I just don't get it. At the moment, the BDO are making, the WDF are making the same mistakes the BDO made, and it's going to go the same way at the moment unless they change something. They're making the same mistakes.
What mistakes?
What's that?
What mistakes? They need to grow their social media following, granted. So does everybody. We need to grow our social media following still. We've got 48 likes on this stream, people. We weren't going to do a giveaway until we reached 100, but, we promised you a giveaway.
The same mistakes they're making is the commercial deal they've done with a sponsor. The fact they're not making any money.
They don't have a choice. This event has to get off the ground, and it has to be now in a year where there's more competition for World Championships, and you know that. You've literally spent the last week throwing the word commercial decisions at me. And now the minute a commercial decision is made, you don't agree with it.
Your major event, you have to make money off of it.
They have to be in the public eye. No, they don't. Not this one. They have to launch and they have to be in the public eye. The World Seniors do not need to go and make £500,000 or whatever profit margin they've got for that event. Yes, they want a continuation, but growing that event and being in the public eye is more important than anything else on that first event. Because that's how you get more commercial people involved. That's how you grow it. You don't have a choice but to launch.
Being in the public eye was the one, then putting it on the dates they have was not the way to do it. Because the first 3 days, in the darting world, all eyes are going to be on Ali Pally, not Bill and Bob at Lakeside.
They didn't have a choice. Literally didn't have a choice.
Always a choice.
Not really. Do you risk overlapping with the World Championships or overlapping with Q School that depletes half your field? Early rounds, darts is on, you can switch between both.
But they're still overlapping with Q School anyway by a day.
And that wasn't them, because that never normally happens. Q School normally starts on a Monday. So don't give them that. That date was in way before the other one.
Like you say, like we said before, Barry doesn't give a F about anyone else, and that just shows they've got no interest in it.
I just don't think they can seem to be back in either at the minute until one of them grows massively. And to do that, they need to be on TV and grow the brand image first. That is the most important thing. We've literally had a week where commercial viability has been the most buzzword topic ever, and we get to it in a completely different situation, and you've suddenly flipped your mind.
I've not flipped it. I just think that if they're going to commercial viable, they've done an awful deal then.
They need to be in the public eye for the first one. That's it. Plain and simple. And that's what they're doing. And actually, yes, there is competition for things and other things going on, but launching the event at a time when there is so much darts and there is so much attention on darts means that transition into the back end of that tournament is even better than having a 3-week gap and people losing interest. You might be able to keep a couple of casual fans interested, which is what they need. They don't need diehard darts fans. They need casuals to take it up as well and see, actually, this is pretty interesting too. And drop the, oh God, the BDO's on now, they're going to average 60. Anyway, it's now 10:05.
All that was missing from that is me to have some popcorn, I think.
Right, we are going to overrun, so we are still going to do some questions.
Well, we've got a feature from Lee to do very, very quickly, and we've also got to do this giveaway, Phil. And I was thinking that maybe in Lee's feature, we could somehow play for a person each in the chat room, and that would be the winner of the giveaway. But I think it's just going to be a little bit too complicated to decide that. So to launch the giveaway, once this show is finished and uploaded into YouTube as a normal clip, not as a live stream, drop down in the comments section. Just give us a like and comment in the bottom just saying pick me or something along those lines. If you don't comment, you're not involved. That is literally the only requirement to be involved in the giveaway for the 50th show. If you win, we'll drop your comment underneath saying please get in touch with us via social media. We will close it next week. We'll close it next week. Next Sunday evening, I think. And we'll pick a winner and we will announce it on Monday's show next week. So yeah, just drop down in the comments section after this stream has finished, not in the chat room that you're in now, in the comments section, and we will pick a winner from that to win a signed dartboard from the World Seniors. It has the signatures of the 2 qualifiers, Kevin Burness, Richie Howson, and Helen Chamberlain is on there also. So like I said, get involved in the chat after we finish the show.
We have a signed Grand Slam program by the champion, get a win price as well. So
we might do that one on Twitter.
2 prizes for thing. We'll sort out. I've got no idea what Boise's cooked up here, so over to you, Boise.
Well, this is where I the competitiveness of we've had of tonight's show just ups a little bit more as I have revisited episode 1 of the Live Lounge that started last year and watched it, and I've got a few questions around what happened in the show. So everyone in the chat room get involved, but as Live Lounge started last year and everyone was quizzing at the time, what a way to bring it back on show 50. So pen and paper to hand.
Can I also say that the quality of this show, despite the fact your internet dropped out, is far better than our first couple, because some of them were just not great internet-wise. We have got a lot better since you guys have started watching us and kept up with us. As you can see, we've made improvements, and hopefully we'll take them improvements into next year and the next 50 shows and beyond.
So I know Phil's got his notepad ready because he always has. Dob, are you ready?
One. Yeah, I got one.
We have 10 questions for everyone to get involved. So, what date was the first ever Live Lounge? I will give you multiple choice for each of these. Was it the 12th of June, the 12th of July, or the 12th of August? Dob, no looking. Phil's just staring at me, so I know he's not. But you look like you're doing something.
No, my YouTube's up on this one. It was, do I look down on the calendar and try and find out which of those were a Monday?
I've got to put mine
Can't
down.
all have been.
I know it's not one of them. One of them's my birthday. I know it wasn't that one.
Oh, shit. What were the options? June, July, and August?
Yes, and I can tell you, Dob, I can tell you that it wasn't on a Monday, your first show.
Was it not?
Was it not?
Nope.
I've gone 12th of July.
I've gone August.
Yep.
I think we were still a bit of lockdown. I was still at home. But then I moved to a different venue very, very quickly.
It was the 12th of July. 1-0 to Philip. It was on a Sunday. When you started the show, it was either going to be on a Sunday night or a Monday night, depending on what competition and what tournaments were on at the time. And it was on a Sunday night, Dob. 1-0 to Phill. Question 2.
I know. I'd recorded it in my mother's bedroom because that was all I had at home, because I'd gone home because of COVID and there was literally nowhere else to do it. So that was the only place with a solid base and a laptop that I could put up.
Question 2. You was reviewing the first summer series and previewing the match play. In the summer series, MVG won tournament 1 and tournament 3. But who won tournament 2? Was it Dave Chisnell, Ryan Joyce, or James Wade?
I've already written it down.
I love testing Phill. Phil's facing this. He's going to be great.
Ryan Joyce I'm going for.
James Wade, mate.
It was Ryan Joyce.
Oh!
James Wade won number 4. Ryan Joyce won number 2.
Bugger off.
Number 3. After the 5 events, who topped that summer series? Was it MVG, Peter Wright, or James Wade? So there was 5 events in that summer series, wasn't Super Series, summer series. Who topped it? Was it MVG, Peter Wright, or James Wade?
Got an answer.
You got an answer?
Yeah.
Have you,
Yeah.
Dob?
Yeah.
Go on, Dob.
I've gone Wadey again. I thought MVG left early.
Peter Wright.
PB is on fire. Peter Wright.
I just remember going into last year's match play. He was in the form of his life.
Question 4. Obviously, you was talking about the match play. The match play was starting the following week, I believe. As we know, Dimitri won the match play. Who did he beat in the first round? Was it Ian White, Nathan Aspinall, or Glenn Durrant?
I know. Got it.
Dobby's absolutely fuming.
I thought I had the last 2.
Yeah, and now I think I've got this one easily. I've got it wrong.
I'm having a mare.
Do you want my answer, Boise?
Is Dob ready?
Yeah.
Go on, PB.
Aspinall.
Dob,
Ian White.
4-0. It was Asp.
This is going to be like the Ryder Cup. Bars is 6 and 4.
Question 5. So I'm going to quote a few of the things that the 3 of you said, that you 2 and Joe, obviously, about a player. Who was the player you are talking about? That
Something
throw under
stupid,
pressure.
I said it.
That throw under pressure just doesn't stand up.
I know.
It's so jerky. I don't know how he hits as many 180s as he does. Are you
That's
talking
100%
about?
my quote. Oh, I
Are
know
you
that
talking
somehow.
about? Are you talking about? Are you having a desk without the options?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on then. Dob.
Dave Chisholm.
Dave Chisholm it is. He's finally got one on the board.
That's a me quote
no.
as well. I know it is. Straight off the bat, that was all me.
So, led me in perfectly to the next 5 questions. What I'm going to do is be quoting what either Dob, Phill, or Jara, who's in the chat room, said. I want you to guess who said it. So I'll start you with a nice, easy one. Normal service resumes. MVG wins. Was that Dob? Was that PB? Or was it Jar?
Me.
Got your answer down?
Yeah, if it's not PB, you've done us dirty there. It's him all day, surely.
Yeah, I think we both know that it's one nice, easy one. Yes, it was PB, of course. Next one. These 3 can go on and push on now, and you was on about MVG, Price, and Peter Wright. Their games are 50% mental now. They're no longer just about what happens on the board. They can get a victory before they have even started. Was that PB, Dob, or Jar? You got your answer, Dob?
Can't know.
Yeah.
Phill?
Yeah, I know it's not me. I've gone Gob.
Yeah, I think it's me. It's too long-winded to be anybody else.
You are both spot on. So that is 7 out of 7 for PB. And 3 for Gob. And then, next one, Simon Whitlock. One I'm looking at and thinking, how is he clinging on to that spot? When he does when he does get to those big events, his performances are just missing. So he was clinging on at the time to a spot in the top 16.
Got an answer.
Yeah.
Go on, PB.
Jar.
Dob?
I think it's PB again. I don't think that's the way that Jar speaks.
Nope, but it's the way you speak. It was you, Dob.
Oh.
We have just two more for yourself. Penultimate one. I have said this since he won the World Championship. What is a Rob Cross? Is it a man who
that's
can
easy.
top the players
Don't-
order of merit?
Don't need the options.
No, we don't need the options.
We don't need it. This is prime Jarlath. Next.
This is Jarlath all day. He's not even here. What is a Rob Cross is his favourite line in the world.
That's why it had to be in there. I knew he'd be listening. He's taking part, I think, seeing the chat room as well, as are a lot of people. And then the final one, who said this pros another year on, and it wouldn't be the same if he didn't win a PDC title. James Wade is hibernated in the top 10 for nearly 2 decades. It's ridiculous. Was it Jar, PB, or Dob?
I've got an
That
answer.
again.
Another year on,
Not
and it wouldn't be the same.
It's back.
And it wouldn't be the same if he didn't win a PDC title. James Wade is hibernated in the top 10 for nearly 2 decades. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ready, Dob?
Yeah.
Who you done for?
PB.
It was PB.
As soon as you said hibernated, I knew it was me.
And that is all 10. Just for a bit of fun, I did have a tiebreaker ready. I did pre-warn you before the show of this question, but obviously I didn't give you the answer at times. The tiebreaker question was down to be, how many times does PB say 100% during the show?
What, episode 1?
Episode 1, how many times do you say 100% in 48 minutes?
I don't
Closest,
think you
I
should
will
give us
give
the
it to
answer to this. I think you should give us the answer to this next week. And as part of the giveaway for the programme, whoever gets closest to this answer in the comments after the show will win the programme.
Yeah.
Yes,
How do you
I
feel
will,
about that?
I will tell you by just going into the transcript and trying to search for it doesn't work. You have to note them down because I tried that one and it didn't work.
9 out of 10, I'll take that.
Darby's absolutely fuming.
He's livid.
Oh,
Absolutely livid.
Joe
Wait,
was
he's
well,
let
8
me down.
out of 10. But it
Wait,
was
he's let
very,
me
very,
down.
very, it was very, very good to look back at show number 1. Massive.
no, it
We've come a long
weren't. Jumping
way.
all over the place. The fact it was
Oh,
still on
we've come a
YouTube
long
is a
way.
shame.
Only the first 10 minutes, but thanks for everyone who joined in show 1 and still here today. Massive, massive shout out to Jar as well, who's obviously done a lot of these shows. I'm not sure. I know Doug went through the other day and probably got the stats of how many shows we all done, but has done a lot of shows.
I didn't count everybody
massive
else's.
shout out.
I counted yours because that was going to be my question, and I know how many you've done. It was 13, I think. No, it was 13 or
Mind you,
15.
some controversial live lounge news. Next week, I'm not on the show, boys.
Is that a first?
Yeah,
It is a first.
I think.
We've hit 50 and PB's done big time and he's going elsewhere. What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pre-world
You've been on the show
content,
15
man.
with me.
Pre-world content.
Should we do 5 minutes of question time? I know
Yeah.
this is a very, very long show as it is, but it is show number 50. We can
It
go
is
till
show
10:30,
50.
I think.
Yeah. So get your questions in then, everyone. Rose, seriously, yeah. No, look, I'm going to the big exhibition in Newcastle to get our pre-Worlds content sorted. So I'm literally driving from Minehead to Newcastle. Not that that's ambitious in itself.
Can I also just show the workings of a day? I used Mastercaller as the website because World Seniors tweeted how many titles do these players have between them. So I went and worked it out. There's 1,068 between the players in the field. That's my work notebook.
But next week, Monday is going to be bumper because the boys are going to be doing the World Championship draw watch along as well, which will be cool. So we have you covered.
We do, which should maybe feature a guest appearance from the fourth member of this team in the Live Lounge 50. I think Jar is going to make a guest appearance for that one and then leave us for the Live Lounge. So we'll sort the lineup of that. There we go.
Yeah.
Update for next week. We'll be streaming the World Qualifier in the afternoon. So that'll be a Pro Tour watch along. Then we'll be live streaming the watch along for the World Championship draw. Then Jar's going to go and do all of that written work for us. And we're going to slap a third person into the team. The graphics or layout might look a little bit different because we might use a slightly different software because it's a bit easier for people to use from home. But it will look a little bit like the Fallout bar, which means we might be able to flash some comments up on screen for you guys as well as we watch along or that sort of thing. So,
but to be fair, news on that. Around May time, I am changing streaming software. So with the new one, we should be able to have comments on screen for the Live Lounge going forward as well, regularly. So we may have to rejig the screen that a little bit.
Make my head smaller, if that's possible physically.
Is it?
So right, questions. Right, let's go. Where are we? Because you lot smash the questions every. Simon says, in terms of ability, not achievement, is Fallon Sherritt the greatest female player of all time? I think she's got the highest ceiling of all the players I've ever seen. Would that be a fair way to put it, Gob?
Does
I think so.
does she need to be a world champion to be classed as the best?
Yes, she does.
Yeah, she's
Trina has
she
plenty of those.
She won the Phill Bars World Championship this weekend.
You couldn't host a piss up in a brewery, Philip.
But yeah, no, she certainly has the highest ceiling. Phill says, Phill, how tough is it to What's that?
Go on. I was going to go for Celador's question, but I think we covered that.
How tough is it to interview Wade? On a match day, yeah, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm not the only one to say this. Most in the media room will say it can be difficult. If you get him on a media day, he is brilliant. But on a match day, I'm not going to lie, yeah, it can be tough. But on a media day, he is genuinely a joy to interview on a media day. You can have some really good conversations with him. It's that thing of sport, adrenaline, just coming off a stage and everything like that. He just doesn't react well to that environment.
Yeah, I just genuinely don't think enough is made of the fact that James Wade is a top 10 performer in a high-pressure sporting environment that suffers from bipolar.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's celebrated anywhere near enough. And I know that's partly him, and he doesn't want to make a massive deal out of it. He's brought attention to it in the past to try and make some money for mental health awareness charities and that sort of thing. But actually, when you consider what he does to go up in that environment and everything else,
oh, completely
ridiculous.
This is good this is a good one from Tommy, and this is going to split opinion. Is Gerwyn Price the greatest Welsh darts player of all time? For me, he surpasses Richie Burnett. Look, there's a massive argument to say he is.
Yeah, certainly getting close. I think another world championship would almost definitely cement it. You can say that Alan Evans back in the early days. There's a shout for Richie Burnett, as he was arguably the best player in the world for 2 and a bit years in an era where Phil Taylor and Raymond van Barneveld were close enough to being in their prime. So if you can compete at that level for a while, don't get me wrong, Gerwyn Price is doing very, very similar with Michael van Gerwen and Peter Wright, and possibly the most competitive field we've ever had. Think he needs another world title, right?
Yeah.
Or just to keep winning everything. If he wins 8 Grand Slams, then he's certainly up there.
Yeah, certainly in and around. What else have we got? Daniel says, have you guys talked about the full calendar? Yeah, we spoke about it briefly, mate. No real surprises. During the Premier League, the Pro Tours are back to weekends, as Matt said they'd be, because they can't do blocks when the Premier League's on.
Yeah.
We knew that. I think we'll see some blocks towards the end of the calendar. But if we're being honest, Saturday and Sunday works better for us.
Massively. Don't have to have anybody off work then for streaming and that sort of thing. So, yeah. And look, it was a very, very busy calendar. You'll note the absence of a couple of things. The fact that Women's Series is expanding to 20 events is brilliant. The fact that there's going to be some weekends where there's a Pro Tour in one country and a Challenge Tour in another, or a Challenge Tour and a Women's Tour, and all of that sort of thing. It's just mad. And actually, if we've got the likes of a Challenge Tour and a Women's Tour to keep an eye on, we might, if we've got the manpower, start looking at streaming those as well. Not making any promises, but if they draw enough interest and we've got multiple events to look at the same time and people want to keep up with it, then we can certainly see what we can do next year. Interesting that the calendar didn't have European Tour qualifiers on it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that was just to keep the graphics nice and clean, or if there's something going on with those.
I think they'll stick them back on a Friday night.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because obviously the field for the first one is already in place, and then there is a block, there's like 4 or 5 Pro Tours between the first and the second one. And at that point, that's enough time to run a couple of the qualifiers that you need. If they go back to a Friday night, they can run 2 on a Friday night. The players were pretty happy with that in the past. Get those in the bank, and then you start working up. You've got a proper European Tour order of merit at that point.
Yeah. This is a good one. I know it's addressed to me. We can all do this one. Who do you think's had the better career so far? Wright or Price?
Good question. Very good question.
For me, I edge Price, and I say that because he defended a major. They both have a world title each. They both picked up multiple TV titles, but because Price has defended one, I would edge him.
I think Wright has more variety in his titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, after defending something for the third time is well, defending it and then winning it again after losing it is pretty good.
Yeah. Look, there's not a lot between it, but I edge Price for me.
It's a time flip for me in it. I would edge towards Wright. But yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
Both of which have had very similar for me. So I think asking that question in 2-3 years' time might be different, because I think Price pushing on a lot more.
I think if you ask that question in 2 or 3 years' time, it's a completely one-sided argument.
Yeah, well, I think Peter Wright might be playing the World Seniors by then. You never know.
Yeah.
They've changed that another 6 million times by then as well, so you never know. You never know at all.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Wright lost in so many finals to start with, well, he had that terrible record against MVG. Look, Price's record against him still isn't the best. There aren't many who's got a fantastic record against Marco Van Gerwen, to be honest. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see Price have a real dip and then see if he can go back up again, because he just seems to have been on a constant rise since he first came into the game, and it's not always been a straight ascent. There's been points where it's been further up and there's been points where it's been shallower, but it's never really gone down for Gerwyn Price.
Jamie says, who wins a TV final first, Smith or Chisnell? That's easy for me.
I think he means if it was a final, who wins it?
That's still easy for me.
Marcus Smith.
Smith. Which, because we've all said Smith, it'll be Chisnell. But, yeah.
As we saw from Lee's quotes, we're not fans of the Chisnell action under pressure.
To be fair, we've said a lot of things that our opinions may have changed on or not over the last 50 shows, but I'll say exactly the same thing now. I have no idea how Dave Chisnell throws as many 180s as he does.
Yeah, I'm not sure that one was all you, Dob. I think it was a mixture, but you were certainly all in agreement.
Yeah. Everybody agreed, but I certainly threw that line out there.
Yeah. That's a good question. Who left the bigger legacy in darts, Bristow or Barneveld?
This is tough, and it's tough for two reasons, because Barneveld basically spread the game global or international, or at least to Europe. He brought Holland in, which has been a massive country for the last God knows how long. Bristow, not only has he added the razzmatazz and the mental side of the game, Bristow's legacy is somewhat Phill Taylor.
The fact he created the monster. And
he created that man.
Back in the 80s as well, he was the first superstar darts player that everyone recognised that he was a genuine celebrity. So for me, Bristow.
And don't get me wrong, Barney does have that appeal. You see that he's hanging around with footballers constantly. You see the way the game's grown in Holland. That's largely on Barney's shoulders. And because of that, we have a Michael van Gerwen, but there wasn't a direct involvement in that. And the minute that you create the monster that is Phill Taylor, that's a legacy, isn't it? Plus all the titles that you won. Plus, actually, you think about his punditry and media work after that, and the fact that he's never been shy of an opinion.
Yeah, Bristow for me. Right, boys, we are past 10:30. So, just want to thank everyone who has joined us for the extended 50th show. It has genuinely been an absolute blast having you all along. 50 shows, boys. We've made it. 50 not out. Next one is the century. We've got some really good bits lined up. Already planning 2020. I can't wait, boys. Can you?
We're planning last year.
2020. I just want to go to sleep. I'm not going to lie.
We've got that much lined up. We've got a time machine to bring you the live lounge a year earlier than where it is.
I just want to go to bed.
That is my question for show 100's little quiz of what did Phill say on show 50 when was a year past?
Yeah. But it's been an absolute pleasure. All of you in the chat room absolutely smashed it. Remember, all the coverage continues tomorrow morning. The live league returns from 9:30. Murph calling in all the action. And then the Players' Championships in Minehead starts on Thursday. Myself and Jar will be on site. The boys will be doing the Fallout Bar not as always, but we're bringing it for the first weekend event because it's gone down so well. Also, cheeky little trip to a manufacturer this Wednesday to get some content as well, which will be good. So plenty coming up. We've also got a bank of pre-world interviews already bagged. It's been good. It's been emotional.
Don't forget the giveaway as well, guys. Drop into the comment section once the video is finished. Just drop us a general comment. Say hello. Say whatever about the 50th show. And if you want to, for the dartboard, and if you want to win the signed program, you need to have that guess at how many times Phill said, what was the phrase, Lee?
100%.
100%.
100% in the first ever show. Have a pop at that one as well in the comments. If anybody hits it bang on the nose, you'll win. If not, it'll be closest to the number.
There we have it, everyone. We have been Online Darts. This has been the Live Lads. I've been Phill Bars, joined by Jack Gobby Garwood and Lee Boyce. We are signing out this Monday, and we will see you all very, very soon.
Let's go.